Chapter 789. The waves surged and the Jasmine ship was slightly swaying on the surface of the sea. Leslie firmly stood on the deck, not moving at all. Now, he was no longer the rookie who vomited all over the floor when he boarded a ship for the first time. After nearly 2 years at sea, he had fully adapted to life on the sea, and even fell deeply in love with this kind of life. If the current him were to return to Anvil City, those noble madams and young misses who screamed at him before wouldn't be able to recognize him. Of course, those noble madams and young misses screamed for him because of his identity as the successor of the Stag family. But now that the Stag family had disappeared from the history of the Lampari kingdom, he as the successor had lost this most dazzling halo. But Leslie didn't feel that this was a pity at all. He was already tired of living the life of a noble young master, and now that he was living on the sea, he had found excitement that he had never thought of before. It made it harder and harder for him to leave this kind of life. "Sir, I've received Sir Chairman's message." The adjutant on the frigate suddenly ran over with a black, hideous-looking second-generation magic communicator in his hand. "Oh? This means that they aren't far from here." Leslie took the magic communicator and shouted, "Hey, Sui, where are you now?" Sui's laughter came from the magic communicator. "I say, Leslie, are you talking nonsense? The magic signal tower on your ship has a range of less than 4 kilometers. Where do you think we can go?" "I'm asking for your specific location. Do you want us to go and greet you?" "We should be to the northwest, there's no need to greet us. Just head to Yala Harbor and we'll meet outside." "All right." Leslie turned to give the order to the adjutant. "Send down the order, we're heading to Yala Harbor." The adjutant left after receiving this order. After a while, seeing the new flyer guard ships heading towards Yala Harbor, Leslie said in an emotional voice into the magic communicator, "Sui, I have to say, this mobile magic signal tower really is easy to use. With this thing, the command center will be much simpler. We won't have to leave it up to fate like before. This thing isn't as useful as you think. Its effective range is currently less than 4 kilometers. Beyond that, you won't be able to contact it. But when there are no problems with the tests on your Jasmine ship, I will install the same magic signal towers on the other ship. That way, as long as you train them properly, you'll be able to disperse them. In theory, you only need 20 frigates to cover an area of 100 square kilometers." "Really? That would be great." On the endless ocean, the most troublesome thing was communication. It's fine if it's near the islands where we set up bases, but once it's too far away, there's really nothing we can do. Leslie paused before suddenly lowering his voice and asking, "Hey, Sui, have you considered this problem this time? If we can cover the entire sea with that communication network you mentioned, it'll be much easier for us to control it." Sui's soft laugh came from the other side of the magic communicator. "Relax, I've already prepared it." "That's good." The frigate quickly moved across the endless ocean and soon, they saw a black line representing land in front of them. At this time, in the sky to the left, there were 2 dark clouds that were flying over at strange speeds, quickly stopping above the new Flyers Guard fleet. Leslie looked up before connecting to the magic communicator in his hand again. "Hey, Sui, you're not planning on coming down?" "No need, we'll just fly over like this." Leslie looked up at the 2 magic airships flying in the sky and his lips curled into a strange smile. "Hey, is this a demonstration?" In the magic airship above them, Sui turned off the magic communicator in his hand and turned to look at Akali, who was focused on recording. After a while, when she stopped, he asked, "What's the situation?" Akali rubbed her sore hand and slightly knit her brows. "The magic signal isn't too stable, there are clear fluctuations in the quality of the communication." I noticed it just now." "Then why is there this problem?" Akali knit her brows to think for a bit before spreading her hands and saying with a sigh, "I can't come to a detailed conclusion for now. But according to the previous situation, there should be a powerful magic wave being released by a nearby magic source, which affected the magic wave coming from the magic signal tower and the magic communicator. It could also be because the frigate is moving at high speeds and the environment is changing, causing the magic signal to be unstable. It's possible. But if we're talking about the influence of the environment on land is clearly more complicated than the environment on the sea. Since you can take care of it on land, I believe that there shouldn't be a problem on the sea. Akali looked up and flicked her beautiful shoulder-length hair as she said with a proud look, "Of course, don't you know who I am?" Sui laughed before heading into the cockpit. This time there was no Evita in the cockpit of the magic airship because she was still in the main base preparing to sell the military magic machines to the Sack Kingdom with Kennard. So she had only sent her research team that was in charge of researching the magic airship. Sui simply asked them about the situation of the newly built magic airship behind them. After confirming that there were no accidents on the way, he returned to the middle cabin and patiently waited. Although they could see the black line that represented land in the distance, it was actually very far away. The two magic airships were following the new Flyers guard fleet in the sky. The 10 guard ships were moving at 40 kilometers an hour, but it took them over half an hour to reach land. Seeing the Kanla Empire flag and the Kanla Empire Navy flag fluttering in the wind, Sui ordered the two magic airships to prepare to land. When the 10 guard ships arrived at Yala Harbor, the two magic airships slowly landed in the open space of Yala Harbor. When the hatch opened and Sui came out, he saw Russell leading a group of people over. Although he had a warm smile on his face, if one looked carefully, they would find that Russell's eyes were slightly narrowed. The meaning in his eyes was completely different from the expression on his face. "Chairman Su, welcome." Russell came over to greet Sui. Although his tone wasn't cold, it wasn't warm at all. Sui naturally knew why Russell had this kind of attitude, so he didn't mind at all. Rather, he warmly took Russell's hand and shook it as he said with a laugh, "Sir Russell, being able to meet you in the Kanla Empire really makes me very happy." The forced smile on Russell's face froze. He let go of Sui's hand and made an inviting gesture. "Chairman Su, please come in and sit." "All right." Sui led Russell into Yala Harbor with a smile. Looking around, his eyes fell onto the Yala Harbor and he pointed at a white new Flyer guard ship with the Kanla Empire's flag as he asked, "Sir Russell, this guard ship has been serving your country's navy during this time. I wonder if you are satisfied with it?" Hearing this question, the expressions of Russell and the Kanla Empire's navy officers behind them all changed. Russell turned to take a deep look at Sui before slowly nodding. "Chairman Su, are you doing this on purpose?" "On purpose? What on purpose?" Sui asked back in surprise. Russell heavily snorted. "Chairman Su, you clearly know that we invited you here to discuss the maintenance of the guard ship, yet you come here to ask this kind of question. Are you deliberately criticizing us?" Although New Flyer had signed an agreement with the Kanla Empire's navy to sell them 3 guard ships, it would take at least next year for the 3 guard ships to be completed. And Russell was eager to prove to the Empire's navy and military that his insistence on purchasing the guard ships was correct. Therefore, after discussing with New Flyer, they decided to first transfer one of the guard ships from New Flyer's guard ships to the Kanla Empire's navy for use, which was the one in front of them. After this guard ship entered service with the Kanla Empire's navy, it performed well for the first few months, but it suddenly became unusable last month. The Kanla Empire's navy couldn't solve the problem, so they could only ask for help from New Flyer. Although New Flyer had sent people to solve it, not long after, a similar problem occurred. This time, after the magic ship engineers sent by New Flyer checked it, they didn't hesitate to point out to the Kanla Empire's navy that they normally didn't maintain the guard ship properly, which was why there were so many problems with the guard ship. The Kanla Empire's navy was helpless, and after discussing it, they could only invite New Flyer to discuss the maintenance of the guard ship. This was to prevent similar problems from occurring after the other 2 guard ships were delivered. Sui quickly waved his hand. No, I didn't mean this at all. Sir Russell, I'm just asking if you're satisfied with the performance of this frigate during this period of time. Is there any aspect that you feel is lacking? This is just a normal request, don't misunderstand. Hearing this explanation, the expressions of Russell and the Canla Empire's Navy officers behind him relaxed. Russell turned to point at a young officer who wasn't even 40 years old and said, "This morning Light Guard ship has been under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Nolan during this time. Lieutenant Colonel Nolan, tell Chairman Sue about your experience with the Morning Light during this time." Chapter 790. Lieutenant Colonel Nolan nodded and looked at the Canla Empire's flag in the distance. His face was filled with praise as he said, "Chairman Sue, I have to admit that your Shinfei Chamber of Commerce's corvette is too easy to use. During this period of time, I commanded it to gallop back and forth on the endless sea. It's many times better than those old wooden boats." Hearing Lieutenant Colonel Nolan talking about the advantages of the corvette, Russell and the others all knit their brows. Seeing that Lieutenant Colonel Nolan had no intention of stopping, Russell suddenly coughed heavily. "We easily caught up to those pirates and then easily." Lieutenant Colonel Nolan's voice suddenly stopped and he turned to look at Russell. His heart quivered as he suddenly understood. He quickly gave a cough and gave an awkward smile to Sue before continuing, "Of course, Chairman Sue, if you want to talk about the shortcomings of the corvette, there are some. Please tell me." Lieutenant Colonel Nolan hesitated a bit before saying in a somewhat awkward voice, "The other aspects of the corvette are very good, but there is a very serious problem, which is that it consumes too much. Look, for every 100 kilometers we sail on the sea, we need to use at least 2 tons of magic crystals. Like this, we need to set aside a large amount of space in the warehouse to store the magic crystals. Adding in the fact that the amount of magic crystals on the corvette is limited, the range isn't ideal. You have to know, if we used wooden boats before, we could go as far as we wanted. Before you could go far enough, the boat would collapse first." Sue rolled his eyes in his heart, but he still maintained a smile on his face as he said with a nod, This is indeed a problem. But Lieutenant Colonel Nolan, I think you should be buying normal magic crystals from the market as a power source, right?" Lieutenant Colonel Nolan was stunned. "Is there a problem with that?" "Other than that, we didn't buy low-quality magic crystals, rather we bought the highest quality magic crystals that we could buy. Because of this, just last month alone, this Morning Light cost over 200 gold coins." "Is that so?" Sue smiled as he turned to look at Russell. "Sir Russell, I remember that when we handed over this frigate, we also gave you a user manual. If I didn't remember incorrectly, it should be clearly written that this guard ship should use the high-concentration magic crystals produced by our new flyer as a power source, and it's best not to use the normal magic crystals that are commonly seen on the market." Newman looked at Russell in shock. Sir Russell hadn't told him about this matter. He hadn't even seen the shadow of the so-called instruction manual. Russell's expression changed slightly as he said in a deep voice, "There is indeed such an instruction manual, but this book has been left in the General Staff Department for research during this time, so I didn't give it to you." After saying this, he turned to Sue and gave a soft snort before continuing, "The reason for doing this is because this guard ship is in the hands of our Empire's Navy. It needs to adapt to our situation and can't do as your new flyer says." Sue couldn't help giving a cold laugh in his heart. This Russell seemed very willing to accept new things on the surface, even going as far as to persuade the Canla Empire's Navy to buy 3 guard ships from the new flyer, but he was a very conservative fellow. Saying that the guard ships needed to adapt to the situation of the Canla Empire, he clearly hoped that the 3 guard ships wouldn't be affected by the new flyer and could be completely controlled by the Canla Empire's Navy. But it was a pity that his idea was good, but it was completely wrong. The guard ships produced by the new flyer were far different from the wooden ships of the past. Compared to the traditions of the signs, This thing was an extremely advanced high-tech product. If the Kanla Empire's navy still wanted to treat it like an ordinary ship, they would only be asking for trouble. The reason why he was invited here this time was because they played with the frigate until it couldn't be used. They had no choice but to ask him for help. Thinking of this, Su Yi's face turned cold as he sternly said, "Sir Russell, I must tell you very seriously that this guard ship is a high-tech product that is far beyond the understanding of you and your navy. It isn't as simple as you think. If you use it according to the precautions we gave you, then it will definitely bring you a lot of help. But if you want to act on your own, then I can only say that you will bear the consequences." The faces of Russell and the Kanla Empire's navy officers changed. Su Yi's words were simply mocking and threatening them. But now that the fact that the guard ship couldn't be used was in front of them, they couldn't refute it. And in the past few months, this guard ship had indeed shown incomparable performance. It had already completely convinced everyone in the Kanla Empire's navy. It made the Empire's navy firmly believe that the wooden ships of the past would inevitably be replaced by this new guard ship made of steel that was like a fortress on the sea. So even if they were dissatisfied with the new flyer, they were still forced to take the initiative to invite the new flyer to negotiate and work hard to promote a deeper cooperation between the two sides. Russell was silent for a moment with a sullen face. He took a light breath and his face returned to normal. He made an inviting gesture to Su Yi. "Well, Chairman Su, let's sit down and have a good talk about these things, please." Su Yi smiled faintly. As expected, they had to yield to reality in the end. The group entered the Kanla Empire's navy barracks near the port and sat down in a spacious room that looked like a war room. Russell, as the host, introduced the various people on his side to Su Yi, and the two sides quickly got to the main topic. The main purpose of the Kanla Empire's navy inviting Su Yi was of course to let the guard ship continue to operate smoothly and ensure that the Kanla Empire's navy could smoothly use it in the future. To put it bluntly, this guard ship could be considered as an experiment. It would allow the Empire's navy to learn how to operate this new guard ship as soon as possible so that the Empire's navy could prepare for a comprehensive replacement of ships in the future. So the focus of the discussion was mainly on the follow-up maintenance of the guard ship. The Kanla Empire's navy naturally hoped that New Flyer could provide them with all the maintenance technology, so that they could do their own maintenance without New Flyer. However, Su Yi directly told them that it was impossible. The reason why he was this direct wasn't because New Flyer wasn't willing, but rather the main reason was that the Kanla Empire's navy didn't have this condition at all. When it came to the maintenance of the guard ship, the most important problem was the replacement of damaged parts. But all the parts of the guard ship were made by New Flyer. Not to mention the Kanla Empire not having this condition, even the Lampari Kingdom with a strong magic machine industry didn't have this condition. The special steel needed to make these parts could only be refined by the Frestek Chamber of Commerce, so only the Frestek Chamber of Commerce knew how to make these parts. Even the corresponding magic machines were only owned by the Frestek Chamber of Commerce. To put it simply, other than New Flyer, there wasn't a single company or organization that could solve this problem. So even if Su Yi was willing to give the follow-up maintenance to the Kanla Empire's navy, they couldn't do it at all. Although the Kanla Empire's navy wasn't convinced, they had to admit this fact. So after an intense discussion between both sides, the Kanla Empire's navy had no choice but to accept the solution proposed by New Flyer. That was that New Flyer would guarantee the maintenance of the Kanla Empire's guard ships, making sure that they could operate smoothly. So the Kanla Empire's navy had to pay quite a bit of maintenance fees to New Flyer. The daily maintenance fees were considered cheap, but the maintenance fees were a bit terrifying. For example, the reason why the guard ship in the harbor couldn't operate, according to the results of the engineers sent by New Flyer, it was because the Kanla Empire's navy didn't follow the instructions given by New Flyer when operating the guard ship. It exceeded the power output limit and caused the magic array to be damaged, so it couldn't operate anymore. The magic array was the core of the guard ship, so it was very serious if it had a problem. According to the evaluation of New Flyer, if they wanted to repair it, they would have to bring the guard ship back to New Flyer's shipyard in the Principality of Constantine. Because the Canla Empire didn't have any conditions, they couldn't provide the environment needed to repair it at all. Like this, adding in the materials and manpower needed, the cost wasn't small. Sui represented New Flyer and unceremoniously asked the Canla Empire's navy for a repair fee of 70,000 gold coins. Although the Canla Empire's navy was extremely dissatisfied with this shocking cost, Sui didn't relent at all, so they could only pinch their noses and accept it in the end. In the end, New Flyer could choose not to repair it, but they couldn't not use it. Looking at the Canla Empire's navy officers, including Russell, who looked like they wanted to eat him alive, Sui smiled faintly and couldn't help but feel a little proud. When he agreed to sell the 3 guard ships to the Canla Empire's navy for 50 gold coins and various other conditions, many of the upper echelons of the Chamber of Commerce objected because this price was too much of a loss. Even with the additional conditions, it was still too much of a loss. But Sui insisted on agreeing because he had already calculated today's situation. As long as the Canla Empire's navy had a guard ship, they would definitely discover the incomparable advantages of the guard ship compared to the traditional wooden ships and would inevitably continue to use it. And as long as they used it, they would be forced to accept the conditions of the New Flyer's maintenance like today. Whether it was the Canla Empire's navy or the guys in the Chamber of Commerce, they probably didn't know that compared to the one-off sale of this kind of thing, the maintenance was the most profitable part. Many of the technologically advanced Western countries on Earth were extremely skilled in this method, including many of the backward countries in China. And when it came to the signs, Sui naturally wouldn't hesitate to borrow it. Chapter 791. The negotiation between the New Flyer and the Canla Empire Navy was of course not just a matter of the New Flyer satisfying the request of the Canla Empire Navy. In fact, in this negotiation, solving the problem of the maintenance of the frigate was only the foundation. What really needed to be discussed was the request of the Canla Empire Navy made by the New Flyer. According to the agreement signed between the two sides, the Canla Empire Navy would purchase 3 frigates from the New Flyer at the price of 500,000 gold coins each. They had to satisfy the New Flyer with other related conditions. Otherwise, the gap of 1.5 million gold coins wouldn't be so easy to fill. After leaving behind their subordinates to discuss the details of the maintenance of the frigate, Russell led Sui to another room in the barracks. Here, waiting for Sui was a slightly plump, middle-aged man with a kind smile on his face. His eyes emitted a light that represented shrewdness. He looked more like a businessman than a soldier. In fact, he was indeed a businessman. Chairman Su, this is the president of the Lavender Chamber of Commerce, Roberto Zenni. The middle-aged man immediately put on a warm smile, grabbed Sui's hand and said with a smile, "Chairman Su, nice to meet you, please take care of me in the future." "Don't mention it, let's cooperate in the future. There's no need to take care of each other." Sui spoke politely while seriously sizing up Roberto Zenni. The Lavender Chamber of Commerce was quite famous in the Canla Empire. Sui inquired about the first-rate chambers of commerce in the Canla Empire that needed to be paid attention to, including the Lavender Chamber of Commerce. But he didn't expect that the Canla Empire Navy was behind the Lavender Chamber of Commerce. But this wasn't strange. To be able to stand firm in the Canla Empire, which Chamber of Commerce didn't have some power behind them? In Sui's opinion, the reason why the Lavender Chamber of Commerce did not become one of the most powerful chambers of commerce in the Canla Empire was probably because they were dragged down by the Canla Empire's navy. At least in Sui's opinion, the Canla Empire's navy really didn't have any business acumen. Perhaps some individuals in the navy could make a lot of money, but it was far from enough to improve the situation of the Imperial Navy. Chairman Su, in fact, I have long been very interested in the various magic machine products of your Chamber of Commerce. Even without today's meeting, I would have taken the initiative to seek cooperation with Chairman Su sooner or later. Now, with Lord Russell's recommendation, it will be even more convenient. Su-yi didn't respond enthusiastically to President Zenny's warm smile. After a moment of silence, he shook his head and bluntly said, "President Zenny, if you're here to discuss cooperation with me regarding magic machines, then I can only express my apologies." President Zenny and Russell were both startled. The two looked at each other, and Russell asked with a frown, "Chairman Su, what do you mean by this?" Su-yi sighed and pointed outside the room. "Lord Russell, President Zenny, your subordinates are the Canla Empires, or even the entire signs. You don't want to make use of the endless sea outside, but only want to cooperate with our Chamber of Commerce in the field of magic machines. Don't you think this is too stingy?" President Zenny and Russell looked at each other with a puzzled expression. "Chairman Su, isn't your new flyer's main business in magic machines? If we don't cooperate with you in the field of magic machines, can we look for other partners?" Russell asked with a frown. No. You're mistaken. Of course, cooperation in the field of magic machines is what I look forward to the most. This is because I very much hope that our Chamber of Commerce's magic machines can be widely promoted in the Canla Empire. This way we can obtain a large market. This is what we were thinking about before. Chairman Su, why did you reject this idea?" President Zenny asked with a puzzled expression. "What I mean is that we don't have to limit ourselves to just selling our products in the Canla Empire, right? According to what I said, the Lavender Chamber of Commerce's main business is all kinds of seafood. Am I right, President Zenny?" Su-yi asked back. President Zenny was slightly surprised. He thought that this was the first time Su-yi knew about his Lavender Chamber of Commerce, but he didn't think that Su-yi would actually say that their main business was seafood. It could be seen that he already had a certain understanding of the Lavender Chamber of Commerce. Yes. With the support of the Empire's navy, if we still don't know how to make use of the resources in the sea, then we would be too stupid. President Zenny replied with a smile. "Yes, that's right. But President Zenny, in my opinion, you're not making use of it enough. The resources in the sea are almost endless, and what your Chamber of Commerce can use, I'm afraid it's not even 1/10,000th of it." President Zenny frowned. "Chairman Su, after talking for so long, what do you mean?" Su-yi smiled, took out a map from his chest, and spread it out on the table. Russell and President Zenny looked at it and found that it was a map of the southern signs. After looking at it carefully, Russell's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. The Empire's navy of course had a map of the southern seas, and it was far more detailed than the maps sold on the market. But compared to the map that Su-yi took out, the map in the Empire's Navy's Staff Department was so crude that it was hard to look at it directly. "President Zenny, your Lavender Chamber of Commerce's main business is seafood. Specifically, it's all kinds of marine fish, kelp, coral, and other things, right?" President Zenny was more and more certain that Su-yi must have investigated his Lavender Chamber of Commerce, otherwise he wouldn't know so much about it. "That's right, Chairman Su, what do you think?" "Oh, President Zenny, have you noticed that the seafood that your Chamber of Commerce currently sells is mainly in the coastal area?" Seeing Su-yi draw an arc on the sea not far from land on the map, President Zenny was puzzled. What's the problem? With the ability of the current fishermen, they can only fish so far from land at most. We can't let them go deeper into the sea. The deep sea is quite dangerous. How can the fishermen risk their lives? President Zenny suddenly paused and looked at Su-yi in a daze. He suddenly thought of something. The Frestec Chamber of Commerce that Chairman Su was from, didn't they already invent a powerful ship made of steel that could travel several hundred kilometers in the deep sea? Ordinary fishermen didn't have the ability to go deep into the sea because the fishing boats they used weren't good enough. At most they could only fish in the coastal area. Even the large wooden warships of the Kanla Empire Navy couldn't really go deep into the sea. So even if countless people knew that there were even more enticing resources in the deep sea, because of their limited abilities, they could only watch. But now that the powerful steel ships of the new flyer could easily enter the deep sea, didn't that mean that the deep sea resources that they could only silently drool over before were now within reach? Thinking of this, President Zenny's breathing became faster as he looked at Su-yi with sparkling eyes. Seeing his reaction, Su-yi knew that he understood what he wanted to say. He pointed at the deep sea on the map with a smile and said to President Zenny, "Our new flyer doesn't just produce large transport magic boats and guard ships for battle, we also produce deep-sea fishing magic boats for fishing. President Zenny, is your company interested in this thing?" ####. 5 days later, the new flyer delegation led by Su-yi ended their negotiations with the Kanla Empire Navy. According to the results of the negotiations, the new flyer would be responsible for the maintenance of all the guard ships sold to the Kanla Empire Navy, guaranteeing that the Kanla Empire Navy could use these guard ships without worry. At the same time, the Kanla Empire Navy had confirmed New Flyer as their partner and would treat the New Flyer's guard fleet as an ally. They would give the New Flyer's guard fleet the right to travel freely in the Kanla Empire's seas. At the same time, they would open 3 ports in the southern part of the empire to the New Flyer's guard fleet for them to use. Other than this, the Kanla Empire Navy had also signed an agreement with the New Flyer to develop the southern seas of the Kanla Empire. First, they would set up magic signal towers on the islands in the southern seas within 2 years, creating a magic communication network that would cover the entire southern seas. In response, the New Flyer would give the Kanla Empire Navy 500 magic communicators, allowing the Kanla Empire Navy to use these magic communicators to communicate freely within 5 kilometers. These were only the results of the agreement on the surface. In private, the New Flyer had also reached an agreement with the Kanla Empire Navy. New Flyer would invest in developing 6 mines in 2 small countries to the southeast of the Kanla Empire. The New Flyer wouldn't directly benefit from these 6 mines, but the ores from these 6 mines would be sold to the New Flyer at market price. Other than that, the Kanla Empire Navy would help the New Flyer open up a sales channel in the Kanla Empire. The first step was to help the New Flyer obtain a special quota from the Kanla Empire for foreign companies. This quota was a recognition from the Kanla Empire to the companies of other countries. A company that could obtain this recognition could be considered a famous company on the continent. If the New Flyer could obtain this quota, not only would it increase the fame of the New Flyer in the Kanla Empire, it would also give the New Flyer a proper channel to enter the Kanla Empire, which was very significant. Other than the agreement between the New Flyer and the Kanla Empire Navy, the main thing was the cooperation between the New Flyer and the Lavender Chamber of Commerce. Chairman Zenny was very interested in the magic deep-sea fishing boats that Su-yi mentioned. He didn't care that Su-yi had told him that this boat was still being developed and hadn't been produced yet, but he had already confirmed his cooperation with the New Flyer. He hoped that he could buy at least 5 boats from the New Flyer. Su-yi naturally agreed. Other than this, Su-yi also told Chairman Zenny that he could use the New Flyer's guard fleet to provide the Lavender Chamber of Commerce with information on the deep-sea resources in the southern seas of the Kanla Empire, helping them harvest them in the future. There was no need to wait for this cooperation. Both sides agreed that it would begin in a month. As for other aspects, the New Flyer would provide the Lavender Chamber of Commerce with several refrigerated cabins in the large transport fleet. They would transport some of the specialty fish in the southern seas of the Kanla Empire to other places to sell, which was equal to helping the Lavender Chamber of Commerce expand their market. Correspondingly, the Lavender Chamber of Commerce would share their sales channels in the Kanla Empire with the New Flyer. Although marine products and magic machines were completely different, the new flyer only needed a channel to sell magic machines in the Kandla Empire. As for the specific sales situation, Sue-yi wasn't worried at all. It could be said that the Frestek Chamber of Commerce and the Lavender Chamber of Commerce had gained quite a bit from this negotiation. Even if they felt that the maintenance cost of the guard ships was too high and that they had been cheated by the Frestek Chamber of Commerce, the Kandra Empire's navy was very satisfied with the benefits of developing the mine with the Frestek Chamber of Commerce. When they parted in the end, naturally everyone was happy. But when they were sending off Sue-yi, Russell couldn't help pulling Sue-yi aside and secretly asking him a question. "Chairman Sue, your magic airship. When will it be sold? Also, what is your estimated price?" Seeing the expectant look on Russell's face, Sue-yi couldn't help revealing a smile that came from the bottom of his heart. He thought that the reason he didn't ask this question in the past few days was because he wasn't interested, but he was forcing himself to ask now. It will definitely be sold, but as for when it will be sold, it will be next year at the earliest. As for the pre-sale price, I can't say for sure right now. Sue-yi answered Russell's question while secretly laughing in his heart. This Russell could be considered a big fish that he had caught with the guard ships, and now that he had taken the initiative to jump onto the hook of the magic airship, it really made one feel emotional. "Sir Russell, why are you so cooperative?" Chapter 792. After leaving Yala Harbor, the new Flyer Guard fleet and the two magic airships led by Sue-yi didn't go back the way they came, rather they went south. The guard ships went at their highest speed and the magic airships followed in the air, maintaining a speed of 40 kilometers per hour. Setting off from Yala Harbor in the morning, they didn't stop until dusk. They were already over 400 kilometers deep in the endless sea. Sue-yi poked his head out of the ship and looked at the sea below. He found that the difference between the sea and the sea wasn't that obvious. He could still see traces of the seabed. Looking up again, he could see several small islands floating in the distance. "Hey, Leslie, how did you find this place?" Sue-yi turned to ask Leslie beside him. Most of it was unintentional, but a small part of it was intentional. Leslie pointed at the sea. "Weren't you looking at the sea just now? It's clear that you found that there isn't much difference between the sea and the sea, right? And this phenomenon means that this place is still on the continental shelf, which means that there might be large pieces of land nearby. I don't know what continental shelf is, but the sailors of the fleet know what this phenomenon means. We followed your instructions to explore the southern seas at first, but after finding that this sea was a bit strange, we explored it and found an unexpected harvest." "Is that so?" Sue-yi turned and looked in front of the fleet, but he didn't see anything strange in the sea. "How far is this place from here?" "At least 200 kilometers. In short, we can forget about reaching it today, unless you plan on having us continue sailing at night." "You're not afraid of getting lost, but I'm afraid." Sue-yi rolled his eyes at Leslie. He looked around and pointed at the two small islands in the distance. "If we're satisfied with that place, we have to consider setting up a stronghold along the way." Leslie looked at the two islands and shook his head. "These two islands are too small, people can't even live there, so it definitely won't work. Based on my experience, these two islands are so small that they could be submerged by the sea at any time. We can't leave anyone on them." "I didn't say that I would leave people there, I was just planning to set up a magic signal tower there," Sue-yi said. "To put it simply, wherever we develop new flyer, we should place the magic signal towers there, ensuring that the magic network can cover it." Leslie frowned. "Do we need to do this? We're already quite familiar with this part of the sea. Even without this thing, it shouldn't be a problem. But you still don't dare to sail at night, do you?" Sue-yi's question left Leslie speechless. Setting up the magic signal towers and laying down the magic network, other than ensuring a smooth night flight, it can also bring this area under our control. Think about it. No matter when, we can clearly grasp the situation here. Don't you feel very confident? Of course it would be good to do this, but is this possible? Leslie had a doubtful look on his face. Sue, I've never understood, why are you so invested in this magic network? Is this thing really that strong? Sue pointed at Leslie's waist. Not mentioning anything else, you can talk to your young Miss Whitney here. Don't you think it's strong? Leslie's face that had already turned dark from the sea breeze had a rare trace of red. He gave a cough and awkwardly said, "Your idea isn't realistic at all. Didn't you say that the magic signal towers only have an effective range of 5 kilometers? However, there was no other island within a 5-kilometer radius of this place. Even if you set up a magic signal tower here, the magic wave signal will be cut off." Who told you that we can't set up a magic signal tower without an island? Sue rolled his eyes at him, looking like he didn't understand anything. Then tell me, how do we solve this problem? Leslie asked back. I don't have a specific method right now, but I have countless ideas in my mind that can solve this problem, so this isn't a problem. Sue waved his hand and said in a confident voice. Leslie rolled his eyes. To put it bluntly, there's no other way. I wasted all this time talking to you. Sue laughed and patted Leslie's shoulder as he said, "All right, since you think this is a waste of time, let's change the topic. When are you planning on marrying young Miss Whitney?" This young Miss Whitney was a young girl that Leslie had saved from a merchant ship being attacked by pirates when he was cruising in the southern seas of the Kanla Empire. She came from a small noble family in a small city in the central province of the Kanla Empire. She had a beautiful face and a gentle aura. Although she wasn't bad, just based on her appearance, she couldn't be considered outstanding among the noble ladies. But without knowing why, after Leslie had been with her for a while, this fellow who hadn't fallen in love with the noble ladies of the Lampari Kingdom for over 10 years was truly attracted to young Miss Whitney. This young Miss Whitney was also attracted to Leslie, so the two of them could be considered to be in love with each other. But the question of marrying young Miss Whitney made Leslie knit his brows. He and young Miss Whitney were in love with each other, but if they wanted to be together, they would face all kinds of obstacles. One of the biggest obstacles was his identity. If it was the Leslie of a few years ago, with his identity as the successor of the largest noble family in the Lampari Kingdom, of course he had the qualifications to marry young Miss Whitney, who came from a small noble family in the Kanla Empire. It could even be said that young Miss Whitney was climbing up the social ladder. But now that time had passed, the Stag family had already become history in the Lampari Kingdom. Leslie was even a wanted person in the Lampari Kingdom in name, so he couldn't even return to the Lampari Kingdom. To be honest, Leslie didn't even have an official identity right now. The only thing he could say was that he was the commander of the New Flyers Guard fleet. But no matter how strong the New Flyers Guard fleet was, to the point that even the Kanla Empire's navy feared them, they were just the guards of a company in name. They couldn't show their status on the signs at all. Not to mention that the New Flyer couldn't be considered a first-class company on the continent, so how could he have any weight as the commander of the Guard fleet? The Kanla Empire was one of the 2 empires on the continent, so the nobles of the other empires had a sense of superiority over the nobles of the other empires, not to mention Leslie, who came from a small country like the Lampari Kingdom. So even if young Miss Whitney fell in love with Leslie because of his experience, her family strongly opposed it. It was hard for the two of them to even meet, so they could only rely on the New Flyers' private contacts in the Kanla Empire to contact each other through letters. In this situation, Sue asking Leslie when he would marry young Miss Whitney was simply making things hard for Leslie. So Leslie looked at Sue in confusion, feeling a bit doubtful. He had known Sue for a long time, so of course he didn't think that Sue would make things hard for him. Since he asked this question, he must have other considerations. Sue saw the expression on Leslie's face and knew that he understood his meaning. He laughed and took Leslie's shoulder, lowering his voice as he said, "Leslie, Have you ever thought of reviving your stag family? Leslie knit his brows. Of course I've thought about it. But Sue, you shouldn't be the one asking this question, right? If the stag family was destroyed because they participated in the internal strife of the Lampari kingdom and failed in the end, then the main culprit for their failure was the new flyer led by Sue. If it wasn't for the new flyer supporting Her Highness 70 and providing her with large amounts of military magic machines, greatly increasing the battle strength of her army, it would have been hard to predict what the situation in the Lampari kingdom would have been like. So if one really wanted to argue, Sue could be considered the enemy of the stag family. Of course, Leslie didn't agree with the stag family's political views, so he never blamed Sue for the destruction of his family. But now that Sue was asking him if he was willing to revive the stag family, Leslie felt it was very strange. Don't care about these details. Sue waved his hand. I'm just asking you, if you were given a chance to control a large piece of land and develop your stag family into a large and prosperous family, would you be interested? You have to know that only by becoming like this can you obtain the approval of Miss Whitney's family and have them truly accept you. Leslie looked at Sue in confusion for a while before shaking his head. I say, Sue, what is wrong with you today? Just say what you want to say. Why are you beating around the bush? Cool. Because this matter is very important and has a large effect on you, I have to understand your thoughts before asking you. Leslie angrily waved his hand. Stop wasting words, just say it. All right then. Sue revealed a smile before revealing a serious expression. He pointed at the sea in front of the fleet and asked with a serious look, Leslie, if I had you open up a colony for our company, would you be willing? Chapter 793. The guard fleet stopped on a small island that wasn't too big to rest for a night before heading to the southern seas the next morning. About 3 hours later, a black line representing land appeared on the distant sea surface. Leslie, this seems to be much bigger than what you said in the letter. Sue looked at the land in the distance through the binoculars in his hand and couldn't help letting out a sigh of surprise. Such a big place. It can't even be described as an island. Actually, it really is an island. Leslie laughed and stretched out his arm to draw a semicircle in the air. Later, we explored around the island and found that the closest island to it was the one we stopped at last night. So, it's actually still floating alone in this sea. Of course, it can only be considered an island. Then do you know how big it is? Sue asked. I can't give you the specific data, but if I have to say it, let me think. It should be several dozen Masser Islands. Then it can only be considered an island. Sue glared at Leslie. Masser Island was the largest island the new Flyer Guard fleet had found in the southern seas of the Kanla Empire, with an area of close to 20 square kilometers. If the island in front of them was several dozen Masser Islands, didn't that mean it was close to 1,000 square kilometers? Although it could still be considered an island, for an island this big, its meaning was not normal. Sue picked up the binoculars to look at the island that was getting closer and closer before saying with a sigh, Leslie, I'm suddenly regretting giving this island to you. Such a large island, the resources on it must be very rich. I'm giving you a mountain of gold. Leslie rolled his eyes. This place will be colonized by you. Even if you give it to me, it will still be serving you and the new flyer. Sue smiled. He thought that he didn't have many talents under him, and there weren't many people as trustworthy as Leslie. If he wanted to learn from the countries of the age of exploration and colonize the seas, other than Leslie, there really wasn't anyone suitable. The idea of letting Leslie lead the colony yesterday had already appeared in Sue's mind when Leslie reported that they had found a large island in the southern seas of the Kanla Empire. When he saw Leslie this time, Sue had already thought it through. It was hard enough to find this isolated island, so if they didn't take it in their hands when the other countries and powers of the Signs continent didn't have the ability to reach this place, it really would be a waste of God's gift. But with the new flyer's current strength, the most important thing was manpower, so it was hard for them to assign people to control this place. Since it was like this, it would be better if he gave it to Leslie's place. Although the stag family had been destroyed, the stag family had flourished in the Lampari kingdom for several hundred years. The power hidden in the dark was very deep and hadn't completely disappeared. Based on Leslie's request to buy several magic boats, it could be seen that Leslie had a large amount of resources hidden by the stag family. Moreover, Leslie didn't hide this from Sue. So Sue had been considering how to arrange Leslie the entire time. It was impossible for Leslie to stay in the position of commander of the new Flyer's guard fleet, so it was very suitable for him to open up a base for the new Flyer. Leslie had many people who belonged to the stag family that needed to be arranged, and it was hard for them to make a name for themselves if they continued to stay in the signs. Running to this island far away from the signs to start over was a very good choice. When Sue mentioned this arrangement to Leslie yesterday, although Leslie was a bit surprised at first, after thinking about it for a bit, he determined that this arrangement was very suitable for his situation. But everything was still unknown and their understanding of this island was very shallow, so it was too early to say this. So Leslie only agreed to Sue's arrangement, but he didn't immediately agree. Everything would have to wait until they finished exploring this island before making a decision. The guard fleet maintained their high speed as they approached the island. When they could clearly see the outline of the island, Sue ordered a magic airship to take off from the guard ships and begin investigating the island. "Have you been to the island before?" Sue asked Leslie. "We have. We even found a natural deep-water harbor there, so we can disembark from there soon." Leslie pointed to a corner to the right as he spoke. "Oh? There's actually a natural deep-water harbor? It seems like your luck really isn't bad." Sue was a bit surprised. Leslie laughed. "This isn't just my luck, it's also yours. But it isn't all good luck. Do you know what we found after we disembarked?" Seeing Leslie's unlucky look, Sue asked in a curious voice, "What happened?" "There are natives on this island, and the language they use sounds a bit similar to the common language of the Signs continent. According to my calculations, it's very likely that the locals of this island came from the Signs continent, so they can be considered our fellow countrymen." "Isn't that even better? I was worried that it wouldn't be easy to communicate with the locals, but now that the language problem has been solved, it's much easier." "It's good if it's that simple," Leslie said with a bitter smile. "I don't know why, but the locals on this island are very hostile towards us, wanting to kill us as soon as they see us. We just arrived, and because you said that we should develop peacefully, we didn't make a move and could only retreat." "This means that your initial exploration has failed?" "Pretty much." Sue knit his brows as he looked at the giant island in front of them. After thinking for a bit, he waved his hand. "No matter what, let's go take a look first." "Then what if the locals want to kill us?" Sue looked at him and said with a laugh, "They can be hostile towards us outsiders, but they can't be hostile towards something that can make their lives better." Leslie looked at the smile on Sue's face and couldn't help shaking his head as he said with a sigh, "Sue, I've found that you're becoming more and more of a profiteer." 20 minutes later, the fleet stopped at the natural deep-water harbor Leslie pointed out. There was a cliff behind this place, and there was a beach that wasn't that wide beside the cliff. So although it could be considered a natural deep-water harbor, it wasn't that big where the guard ships could dock. Leslie had been here before, so he was very familiar with the situation here. Sue watched him command the fleet to stop near the coast before taking a magic speed boat to the shore. While feeling the softness of the fine sand under his feet, Sue looked around. Although there was a natural harbor here, the area was limited, so there wasn't much room to develop. If he wanted to develop this island, this natural harbor wouldn't be able to satisfy his needs, so he had to find another harbor. But this was something he would consider in the future. He could still make do with it for now. Sui turned to look at Leslie, who was commanding the guards coming down from the guard ship. He knit his brows and shouted, "Leslie, have them hide their weapons. At least put away their swords and bows. We are going to do business with others, not fight a war." Leslie was stunned. "Didn't I just tell you that the locals on this island are very hostile towards us? Shouldn't we be on guard?" "Of course we have to be on guard, but if you run over fully armed like this, even if they aren't hostile, they will become hostile. Listen to me, throw away the obvious weapons like swords and bows. Just bring some military magic machines like magic rocket launchers." Leslie had knit his brows when he heard Suyi's orders, but when he heard the last part, he couldn't help smiling. "Good Suyi, I thought that you wanted to be a messenger of peace, but in the end, you're even more ruthless than me." After saying this, Leslie turned to give orders to the guards. According to Suyi's orders, they only left the military magic machines on them. These things were completely different from the traditional swords and bows. The locals on the island wouldn't be able to recognize them even if they saw them, so they would be less vigilant. Other than having the guards put down their weapons, Sui also ordered everyone to bring their daily necessities from the ship. Then he led everyone onto the island from the slope beside the beach. According to the information Leslie provided, after the group went up the slope and walked around 3 kilometers to the southeast, they saw a small village of around 20 houses. Seeing such a large group of people swarming over from afar, the residents of the village were obviously shocked. They gathered together and looked at the crowd with fear on their faces. Sui looked over the villagers and found that they were all wearing very old clothes. There were quite a few people who had patches on their clothes. Looking at their dark and yellow faces, Sui immediately understood. It seemed like the living conditions of these normal villagers were very normal. Not to mention the citizens of the Lampari Kingdom and the Principality of Constantine, who had their lives greatly improved by the new flyer. Even the lives of the citizens of Banta City before the new flyer appeared were a bit worse. Thinking of this, Sui revealed a kind smile. He took a bag of flour from a guard beside him and walked over to the villagers alone. Seeing him walk over, the villagers couldn't help taking 2 steps back. They moved closer to each other as they nervously looked at him. Sui maintained his smile and stopped around 5 meters away from the villagers. He put the bag of flour in his hand on the ground and untied the string, revealing the white flour with a bit of gold in it. "Everyone, we are merchants from far away. We came here to do some business with everyone. If you can provide us with anything of value, we are willing to exchange the things we brought with us." The villagers on the other side looked at the flour on the ground before looking at the daily necessities the new flyer guards were showing, and everyone's eyes lit up. Chapter 794. Facts proved that the reason why the natives on the island had imagined Leslie's group's swords after they landed on the island was because of the way they had chosen to do it. Sui revealed his identity as a merchant this time, using flour and other necessities to show his sincerity. He quickly obtained the approval of the natives and easily established a real dialogue with them. The first part of this matter went very smoothly. Through the contact with the natives of the village near the coast and the villages further in, Sui had a basic understanding of this island. Like Leslie had expected, most of the natives of this island had drifted over from the signs a long time ago. According to the records passed down on the island, the earliest ones had drifted over when the elves still ruled the signs. Adding in the people who drifted over, they gradually settled down on this island and formed the main population of this island. The main population was because, other than the humans who drifted over from the signs, there were some natives on this island. These natives had lived on this island since the beginning. They didn't know what the signs were and had never left this island. Although Sui doubted this, for the people of this island, they had all lived on this island for many years, so there wasn't much difference between them. Of course, these problems weren't that important to Sui. What he cared about was the value of this island and the various resources on this island. No matter who lived on this island, it didn't matter that much. After telling Leslie that his mission in the future was to control this island as much as possible and promising to give Leslie the necessary support, Sui left a magic airship to investigate the situation of the island and the surrounding seas. At the same time, he left the guard fleet under Leslie's command. Sui and Akali's group boarded another magic airship to head back to the signs. The magic airship was naturally faster than the guard ship. When it flew at full speed in the sky, it could reach a maximum speed of 100 kilometers per hour. This island was around 700 kilometers away from the southern coast of the Kanla Empire. Su Yi's group set off in the magic airship in the morning, and they could see the Signs coast in the afternoon. This place was very close to the Yala harbor that the new flyer guard fleet had opened to the Kanla Empire's navy, but Su Yi didn't disturb them. He just directed the magic airship to head in the direction of the kingdom of Ruhr. Elder Undine of the Azhara tribe had sent a message half a month ago, saying that their tribe's elven town had been finished and they invited Su Yi to take a look. It was a good thing that Steele was a guest at the Azhara tribe during this time for the illusion film, so Su Yi planned to take a look while he was on his way back to the city. The Yala harbor was over 1,500 kilometers away from the Nissi harbor. Even with the speed of the magic airship, it took close to a day to arrive. At noon of the next day, the magic airship carrying Su Yi's group arrived at the cooperation port between the Kingdom of Ruhr and the New Flyer. Now it had become the most prosperous port in the Kingdom of Ruhr, even the southern signs, Nissi harbor. Looking down at the newly expanded port from the sky, the 17 piers were filled with all kinds of ships, including 3 large transport magic ships from the New Flyer transport fleet. Su Yi couldn't help feeling a sense of pride. This Nissi harbor was just a small pier that wasn't that different from a small fishing village when he first came here. Now, because of the cooperation with the New Flyer, with the lead of the New Flyer transport fleet, it had become one of the trade hubs between the Kingdom of Ruhr and the Principality of Constantine. It had become very prosperous, turning Nissi city that wasn't famous in the Kingdom of Ruhr into a famous port city in the surrounding countries. The biggest contributor to this was of course Su Yi, who had taken a liking to it. Looking at it from the sky, this port city was already several dozen times bigger compared to when Su Yi had first come here. Moreover, it was filled with people and looked very prosperous. It wasn't inferior to Banta City at all. When the magic airship flew over the sea, it attracted the attention of countless people. But when they looked up to see the magic airship, other than a few people, there weren't many people who were surprised. The New Flyer's magic airship had already become a famous product in the surrounding countries, so it had already attracted a lot of attention. Countless people had asked the New Flyer when they would start selling the magic airship, but they had all been rejected by the New Flyer because they hadn't finished developing it yet. But this didn't stop people from being interested in the magic airship. There were even many newspapers that focused on the magic airship, saying that if the magic airship could be popularized in the surrounding countries like the magic cars, it would change everyone's lives and could even change the situation of the surrounding countries. Su Yi was very clear on what the latter part meant because even the Kingdom of Ruhr's King Tarek had personally asked Su Yi about the magic airship many times, hoping that he could order some ahead of time. What he was worried about was actually a very simple reason: air supremacy. In the history of the signs, other than magicians who had power that surpassed normal people, the only ones that could fly in the sky were the magic battleships used by the elves. There were magicians in every country, but the magic battleships had never appeared since the elves were wiped out. In the wars of the various countries on the continent, air supremacy didn't mean much because it depended on the strength of the magicians on both sides. In a country of the same level, the strength of the mages was about the same, and the number of mages was too small. In fact, it was very difficult for mages to really affect the outcome of all the wars. It was really a ridiculous thing to talk about controlling the air power. But with the appearance of the new flyer's magic airship, the surrounding countries had no choice but to pay attention to this matter. It was different from magicians. According to what the new flyer said, once the magic airship was developed, it could be mass-produced. What did mass production mean? This meant that as long as you had money, in theory, you could even equip yourself with an unlimited number of magic airships. Moreover, according to the information the new flyer revealed, the magic airship could be equipped with magic cannons, magic rockets, and other long-range military magic machines. To put it simply, this magic airship could be used as an aerial fortress. Perhaps it wasn't as flexible as magicians, and it wasn't as terrifying as the truly powerful great magicians and arch-magi, but compared to normal magic stones, it was without a doubt much more powerful. Compared to the great magicians and arch-magi, it had a clear advantage in terms of numbers. Not to mention that even if the magic airship was damaged, they could buy another one. If the great magicians and arch-magi were damaged, it would be an irrecoverable loss. Take the Kingdom of Ruhr for example, they only had 7 great magicians and didn't even have an arch-magus. How could they compare to the magic airships that could theoretically have an unlimited number of magic airships? Once they had the most important air supremacy, with the current situation where the armies of the various countries couldn't really attack high up in the sky, the magic airships would be invincible. So when the newspapers analyzed that the magic airships could change the situation of the surrounding countries, it wasn't an exaggeration at all. Sui could imagine that once the new flyer announced that the magic airships would be mass-produced, there would be a shocking uproar. If King Tarek knew that I had already ordered 100 magic airships for the Lampari kingdom ahead of time, I wonder what he would think? Sui looked at the crowd looking up and thought that if it was him who had something that he couldn't reach, couldn't hit, and had a shocking killing power, he would definitely be unable to eat or sleep well. It could be seen that King Tarek would definitely do something. When he was thinking about King Tarek's possible response, the magic airship trembled. It stopped on the deck of a large transport magic ship of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce on the pier. When the door opened, the commander of the new flyer's transport fleet, Narvel, came forward. Seeing Sui come out, Narvel was surprised. "Sir Chairman, why are you here? I thought that you were here to resupply after a fixed cruise." "It's right to resupply, but the magic crystals on the airship are about to be used up. Go and prepare some," Sui ordered. Narvel turned to give an order to his subordinate, and his subordinate quickly ran off to prepare. Sui looked at the crowd around him and waved his hand to let them continue with their work. He asked Narvel, "How was the harvest this time?" Narvel replied with a smile, reporting to Sir Chairman, "The transport went very smoothly this time. We transported 700,000 gold coins worth of goods from the company, and it was all robbed on the first day. Then according to your orders, the 3 ships have been filled with zinc ore and it only cost us 300,000 gold coins. That's a total of 400,000 gold coins." Not bad." Sui nodded to show his praise. "But Narvel, these good days won't last long. According to the data we collected, the demand for household magic machines in the Kingdom of Ruhr has reached saturation, so it'll be hard to steal them in the future. The profits from each trip will drop, so you have to be prepared." Narvel's expression changed. "Then what do we do?" "Sir Chairman, we've just developed this trade route and it won't work right away. Isn't this too fast?" "I'm just talking about the trend, I'm not saying that it will reach saturation. But this is something that will definitely happen, so we have to think of a way to solve it." Narvel knit his brows to think for a while before looking at Sui. Suddenly his eyes lit up. "Sir Chairman, you must have a way, right?" Sui laughed. "Of course, otherwise why would I waste so much time talking to you?" "Then, how do we solve it?" "It's very simple, go east." Chapter 795. Suyi's plan was to simply resupply in Nissi Harbor before heading to the Azhara tribe. However, this plan was interrupted when the magic airship was about to take off. Seeing Nissi City's city lord Count Company covered in sweat and looking anxious as he climbed onto the deck of the magic ship, Sui was confused as he ordered the pilot to stop the magic airship and walked out of the cabin. Chairman Su. It's a good thing. It's a good thing I made it in time. Company Count was panting as he stood in front of Sui. His fat body was covered in sweat and he looked like he was in a bad state. Sui turned to take a towel from Narvel and asked, Lord City Lord, is there something urgent? Company Count took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down, but because he took a deep breath, it was stuck in his throat. His face turned red and he almost couldn't breathe. Sui found it funny as he patted his back. Lord City Lord, don't be in a rush. Speak slowly, aren't I right here? Company Count gave a few coughs before forcing himself to calm down. He took Sui's hand and said while panting, Chairman Su, you are finally back. His Majesty has already ordered that as long as we find traces of you, we have to keep you here. His Majesty wants to see you. His Majesty Tarek? He's in a rush to see me? Sui was a bit surprised, while also feeling that it was a bit of a coincidence. He had just thought of King Tarek, and he never thought that King Tarek would come looking for him. I'm not too clear. But His Majesty did order this. Count Company replied. Actually, His Majesty wanted to see you last week, but he was told that you were overseas and he didn't know when you would come back. He knew that you would definitely pass by this place on your way back, so he had me keep an eye on you. It's a good thing I stopped you in time. Do you need to be in such a hurry? Sui slightly frowned. After thinking for a while, he didn't understand why King Tarek would summon him in such a hurry. So, I should go to His Majesty in Karaka City right now? Sui asked. Count Company shook his head and replied, No, His Majesty told me that if I could stop you here, I should inform him immediately. He will come here to meet you in person. His Majesty came here personally? Sui was greatly surprised. Although New Flyer already had considerable influence in the surrounding countries, the higher-ups of these countries valued him as the president. But in the end, he was just a merchant. He was one of the lowest people in the signs. Compared to King Tarek, who was the king of the Kingdom of Roor, their statuses were far inferior. In a normal situation, it should be Sui who went to see King Tarek, and it shouldn't be King Tarek who took the initiative to see him. Count Company was clearly confused by King Tarek's decision, but he didn't say anything and just nodded in response. Sui thought about it and still didn't understand. But from King Tarek's sudden actions, he smelled something strange. Could it be that his random thoughts had come true? Was King Tarek really planning to do something because of the magic airship? ####. 3 hours later, Sui appeared in the Azhara tribe that was around 300 kilometers away from Nissi City. According to Count Company's reply, he had already sent a message to King Tarek when he found Sui. Nissi City was around 500 kilometers away from Karaka City, so it would take half a day to send the message. Even if King Tarek immediately set off from Karaka City, it would take half a day for him to arrive. So in the fastest situation, King Tarek would only arrive the day after tomorrow. In these 2 days of free time, Sui naturally wouldn't allow himself to be idle. After talking to Count Company, he went to the Azhara tribe to meet Elder Undine and steal according to his plan. It was different from the Azhara tribe. This place had always been a barren wasteland because of the illusion array of the Azhara tribe. Although there was still the illusion array of the Azhara tribe, not far away from the illusion array, there was a small town that was filled with the style of the elves. All kinds of tree houses and stone houses made of shiny marble intertwined in the small town. Coupled with the exquisite flowers and trees on the roads, the small town was decorated with colorful colors. It looked extremely harmonious and full of vitality at the same time. With just a glance, people would feel a kind of pleasure of living here is definitely a kind of enjoyment from the bottom of their hearts. This could be seen clearly from the intoxicated expressions on the faces of the many human tourists outside and inside the small town. That's right, this elven town called Evelyn Town was a tourist town that the Azhara tribe opened to the human public. Humans were welcome to visit and even stay there. For the elves, who had always been conservative and hostile to humans, this was undoubtedly a very big initiative. When Su-Yi first proposed this to Elder Undine, it was only because Elder Undine agreed with Elder Lysania that the elves and humans should interact more and get along better, so Su-Yi tentatively suggested it. What surprised Su-Yi was that Elder Undine finally agreed to Su-Yi's bold proposal after serious consideration. After this Evelyn Town was built, Su-Yi publicized it through various newspapers and other channels, and it immediately caused a huge sensation in the human society. Not only did countless humans from the kingdom of Roar flock to see the elves' lives up close, but there were also many humans from other countries that came from far away. Now, this Evelyn Town was filled with human tourists from all over almost every day. Not only did this town become as lively as a human town, but it also left a lot of gold coins in this town. Obviously, traveling in Evelyn Town cost money. There were less than 100 elves from the Azhara tribe living in this town. They were mainly responsible for showing the human tourists the elves' lives while also providing some simple services. Although the service level of these elves was terrible in Su-Yi's eyes, even ignoring the human tourists most of the time, none of the human tourists complained at all. Rather, they felt that the elves should be like this, so they were willing to spend large amounts of money for various services. A very simple handmade elven wood carving could actually be sold for 30 gold coins each. It was even enough to buy a Shinfei brand magic air conditioner. But this was no different from stealing money from Su-Yi, but the human tourists all went all out to snatch it. Every time one was placed on display, it would be snatched away and there wouldn't be any left. Of course, this was also because the Azhara tribe strictly controlled the amount of elven-style gifts, so they didn't flood the market and kept the price high. It was also because of this that Su-Yi admired Elder Undine's business acumen. He felt that she really was worthy of living on the continent for several hundred years. She had already learned the essence of human business. Chairman Su is overpraising me. Elder Undine waved her hand with a smile. Undine waved her hand with a smile. I'm just imitating the methods of the human merchants I've seen before. When it comes to business, you humans are much better. For example, Chairman Su being able to turn a normal new flyer into this large scale, I can't do it no matter what. Su-Yi turned to Steel. Is this what you boasted to Elder Undine? I've never mentioned this in front of the Elder. Steel rolled her eyes at him. Do you still need me to boast for you? Everyone can see the results new flyer has achieved over the years. Yes, there's no need for young Miss Still to mention this. I can casually ask around in your human world and find out many things about your Frestek Chamber of Commerce, Elder Undine said with a faint smile. Su-Yi glanced at Elder Undine and chuckled. Elder Undine, if you have something to say, just say it. To be honest, you're not suited for this kind of hypocritical compliment that is only popular among us humans. Anyway, it's very awkward for me. Is that so? Elder Undine touched her own face and revealed a surprised expression like a human girl. I thought I've learned enough. I didn't expect Chairman Su to see through me so easily. Still on the side couldn't help laughing. Elder Undine, don't listen to Su-Yi's nonsense. These kinds of words are just normal pleasantries between us humans. It would be strange if someone took it seriously. Su-Yi said it on purpose. Seeing Elder Undine's shocked expression, Su-Yi laughed and waved his hand. Don't worry about these details. All right, Elder Undine, I don't think you've invited me here just to let me take a look, right? Elder Undine shook her head with a smile. It seems that it will take a long time for us elves to learn the humans, this smooth communication method. Yes, I invited Chairman Sue here not only for a tour, but also to discuss some things with you. Every race has their own specialties. You don't have to become like us humans. Sue shook his head. For example, if you want to communicate with me, you can just say what you want to say. As long as it's something that benefits both of us, I will seriously consider it. Yes. First, we want to buy a batch of household magic machines from New Flyer. Elder Undine said. Sue was a bit confused. Do you elves also need to use these household magic machines? It's not for us to use. It's for the human tourists in Evelyn Town. Elder Undine shook her head. The human tourists in the town are very satisfied with everything in the town. However, almost every one of them said that they are used to the household magic machines in the town. This makes it very inconvenient for them to live here. Therefore, I want to buy a batch of household magic machines for the human tourists to use. These guys have high expectations. The corner of Suyi's mouth twitched. But don't they think it's weird to have a bunch of household magic machines in this original elven town? Also, Elder Undine, don't you think this will destroy the overall harmony of Evelyn Town? Compared to their aspects and habits, these discordant aspects are not important. In addition, we will find a way to integrate these household magic machines into the town as much as possible so that they don't seem so out of place. Looking at Elder Undine's sincere and serious eyes, Sui couldn't help but sigh in his heart. It seemed that the Azhara tribe had already tasted the benefits of Evelyn Town, so much so that Elder Undine would do her best to find a way to satisfy the needs of the human tourists. Alright, this isn't a big problem. You just need to give the order to our Chamber of Commerce, and we will naturally deliver the goods on time. Sui said. Our Chamber of Commerce has a sales point in Nissi City, which is the closest to here. Once you have decided, just send someone to deliver the order. All right. Apart from that, there is another very important matter that requires Chairman Sue's help. Please speak. Sue said straightforwardly. Chairman Sue, you see, Evelyn Town is very popular among the human tourists in the Kingdom of Ruhr, so I was thinking, should we build a few towns like this in other places or in other countries? Sue stared blankly at Elder Undine, feeling that this was extremely ridiculous. This Elder Undine, was she still an elf? Chapter 796. This time, Sue came to the Azhara tribe not only to respond to Elder Undine's invitation, but also to meet up with Steele. Before leaving the Principality of Constantine, Steele had already arrived at the Azhara tribe half a month in advance to prepare for the filming of the Illusion film. After that, Sue also left and went to the Kanla Empire, and then went to the new island in the Southern Sea. The round trip took him half a month. He hadn't seen Steele for more than a month, and naturally missed her very much. Moreover, Steele was now 7 months pregnant, and Sue was still worried about her. But when he saw Steele again, Sue found that her complexion was excellent, and she was very energetic. Even her skin had become smoother and rounder, and she looked a few years younger. Sue let go of the worry in his heart, but also felt curious. What was the reason that Steele, who was already 7 months pregnant but was still busy working all day, didn't show any signs of fatigue, and instead looked radiant? This didn't make any sense at all. I listened to you and paid more attention to rest every day. I didn't work all day, okay? Steele rolled her eyes at Sue, and then circled around in front of Sue, and gave Sue a playful and teasing look. What? Do you think my skin has become better now? Don't you think I'm more attractive? Sue couldn't help laughing. You're always charming. Tell me, what is the reason? You are still as unromantic as ever. Steele muttered and replied, actually, it's mainly because of Elder Undine's special care for me. The elves have a unique way of regulating their bodies, and I learned a lot from Elder Undine. Elder Undine also opened the moonlight pond in their tribe for me to soak in every day. It's very good for my body. Even the moonlight pond is open to you? Sue was a little surprised. The moonlight pond was called the Pond of Life by the elves, and symbolized the source of life of the elven tribe. It could be said that it was the most important place for every elven tribe. Elder Undine even opened the moonlight pond to Steel so that she could soak in it every day, which showed how much she cared for Steel. Yes, it's all thanks to you. Steel laughed. Elder Undine said that this is the first time that the moonlight pond in her tribe is open to a human. Speaking of this, Elder Undine wanted to ask you if you are interested in soaking in the moonlight pond? Sue was startled. Me? I'm a big man, why would I go there? Don't tell me I'm going there to nourish my skin too? Still gave a laugh. You're actually already white enough, you don't need it at all. She said Elder Undine said moonlight ponds told me. She told me that soaking in the pond can improve to the human body 222s. When placed on a magician, it can improve the magician's sensitivity to magic elements. Simply put, it can indirectly improve the magic power. After soaking in the pond for a while, I can clearly feel that my body has become more sensitive to magic elements. How about it? Are you interested? Oh? Is that so? Sue rubbed his chin, thought for a moment, and nodded. If the effect is really good, then I can consider it. Hey, why don't the two of us go soak together tonight? Steel looked at Sue's strange smile and rolled her eyes. What are you thinking? If you think it's okay, then I'll tell Elder Undine in a bit. There's no hurry. I can only stay here for one night. I'm afraid I don't have that much free time. Come, take out the illusion film you are setting up and let me see if I can give some advice. Okay. Still took out the magic illusion projector and put in a small illusion module. There was a faint blue light that flashed on the projector and an illusion appeared in the air above it. This illusion film was temporarily named Floating. It was something that Steel and the New Moon Chamber of Commerce's illusion film production department had focused on making. It was about 3,000 years ago when the elves were still ruling the continent. It was a beautiful love story between an elven girl and a young human man. It was very clear that this was Steel's work. Under Sue's suggestion, the New Moon Chamber of Commerce made the illusion film, The Daily Life of the New Moon Troupe, which was very well received. When it was shown in the various opera troupes of the Lampari Kingdom and the Principality of Constantine, it caused a sensation. The number of people who watched the film exceeded 1 million. The New Moon Chamber of Commerce earned over 70,000 gold coins in ticket sales. It could be said that they had tasted the sweetness. After that, Sue personally wrote a script for Steel and had the New Moon Chamber of Commerce make a short drama film, which was also very well received. From these two successes, Steel firmly believed that Sue's illusion film would become very popular. She decided to invest more in it and strive to make the New Moon Chamber of Commerce the entertainment company that Sue had mentioned. This, Floating, came from Sue's suggestion, but he only provided the idea of a movie and didn't do anything else. Now that he had seen the part that the New Moon Chamber of Commerce had already finished making, Sue was full of praise. It had to be said that the illusion film had a natural advantage compared to the movies on Earth. It had a 3D projection effect that was much more realistic. This was because the production of this illusion film was completely based on the recording of the real world through an illusion magic array. Then it was projected through a magic illusion projector. It was almost like a copy of the original, so it was naturally very realistic. However, there was a problem with this. Because it was too realistic, it didn't have the special effects of the movies on Earth, so there was less room for manipulation. After thinking about this problem, Sue pondered for a bit. He first asked Steel a few small questions about the shooting angle, plot progression, etc. Based on the details that he learned from the movies on Earth, it gave Steel a lot of inspiration. What a pity! Sue, if only you weren't the president of the New Flyer. I would definitely hire you to our company to be in charge of the production of illusion films. Steel had a look of pity on her face. Sui laughed. I'll think about it after I retire from New Flyer. But before that, we have to first create a system for projecting illusion films. Steele, I think that since the speed at which you shoot illusion films has increased, we should change our previous plan. How do we change it? Steele asked curiously. The plan that Sui had made with her before was to set up many opera houses in the Lampari Kingdom and the Principality of Constantine to play illusion films. It was roughly equivalent to the movie theaters on Earth. After people got used to this model, they would consider the next step. But now that he saw Steele leading the New Moon Chamber of Commerce to progress beyond his expectations, Sui felt that it was appropriate to push things forward. I feel that we can set up a public magic illusion projection device in each city. We can make a short introduction video for the magic illusion films you've filmed and broadcast it, which is equivalent to advertising. At the same time, your New Moon Chamber of Commerce can use these magic illusion projectors to find a new source of profit for yourself. A new source of profit? Steele frowned. How do we use it? Look, this public magic illusion projector, as long as there are enough magic crystals, it can play magic illusion films all day long. Then, other than playing the introduction to the illusion films that you shoot, you can also play some advertising films. Advertising films? Steele was stunned before coming back to her senses. You mean that you want us to shoot some advertising films for other companies, just like the advertisements you had me do for your New Flyer? That's right. But the advertisements you did before were just simple drawings, and this advertisement film is a complete illusion film, so it will look more realistic. Think about it, if you had this when you helped me do the advertisements, wouldn't you be able to display your charm even more? Even if they were an old couple, hearing Sui's words, Steele couldn't help blushing. She had a bit of excitement on her face as she said with a nod, I understand what you mean. This is a very good idea, I will seriously consider it. Alright, I'll only say this. As for how to shoot these advertisements and who to shoot them for, that will be up to your New Moon Chamber of Commerce. I can only help you set up these public magic illusion projectors in the various cities. Sui said with a smile. Of course, do I need your help with this? Steele rolled her eyes at Sui. She walked to the side with a smile and began talking to the staff members of the New Moon Chamber of Commerce that she brought with her. Sui laughed. Although Steele was no longer the young girl in her early 20s from when he first met her, she was still beautiful and charming. Her appearance was very moving and he really wouldn't get tired of looking at her. After giving a satisfied smile, Sui thought of the problem he had just thought of and went to find Elder Undine again. Modify the recorded illusions according to your wishes and add some special effects? Elder Undine looked at Sui with some confusion. She didn't seem to understand his question. After hearing Sui's detailed explanation, Elder Undine finally understood what Sui meant by special effects. Although we don't have any research in this area, the illusion magic array can create illusions out of thin air. Then I think we should be able to add the special effects you mentioned. Then there's no problem. Sui let out a sigh of relief. Elder Undine, if it's possible, I hope you can give us some of the core information of the illusion magic array. We can meet the corresponding conditions. For the special effects you mentioned? Elder Undine smiled, but shook her head. I don't think that's necessary. The illusion magic array is a very difficult type of magic, even among elven magic. I'm afraid that even if I give it to you, you won't be able to grasp the essence of it in a short time. Is that so? Sui frowned slightly. He didn't think that he couldn't grasp the essence of the illusion magic array, but he was surprised by Elder Undine's rejection. Actually, Chairman Su, you don't have to master the illusion magic array by yourself, right? Elder Undine asked again. Sui looked at Elder Undine in surprise. Didn't you always tell me that the most important reason why you humans can replace us elves to rule this continent is that you humans know how to combine all the advantages and cooperate with each other? That's why you humans can erupt with such great power? What you mean is, Elder Undine smiled and said, it will take a lot of time and energy for you to learn and master the illusion magic array. Why don't you let our clansmen, who have already mastered the illusion magic array, join you and help you complete the task? Looking at the smile on Elder Undine's face, Sue was once again convinced that Elder Undine was definitely the most business-minded elf he had ever met. There was no one else like her. Chapter 797. The happy time with Steel was always short. After staying in the Azhara tribe for an entire day, Sue returned to Nissi Harbor. When the magic airship landed, there was a pure silver magic sedan that came from the distance, stopping in front of the magic airship. Count Company struggled to get out of the back seat of the magic sedan and ran to the cabin door. He looked at the slowly opening door, and when he saw Sue's face, he let out a long sigh. "Chairman Sue, you're finally back." Sue couldn't help smiling. "What? Lord City Lord, are you afraid that I'll run away?" No, 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 there's no such thing." Count Company wiped the sweat off his forehead and made an inviting gesture to Sue. "Please come with me. According to the news I just received, His Majesty is only 20 kilometers away. I asked Chairman Sue to come with me to greet His Majesty outside the city." "All right," Sue replied. He turned back to talk to everyone on the magic airship before getting into his magic sedan with Count Company. The magic sedan quickly started and headed to the north of Nissi City. Seeing that Nissi City was left behind, Sue asked Count Company beside him, "Lord City Lord, in the latest news from His Majesty, did he mention why he summoned me so urgently?" "This." He didn't say anything specific. But since His Majesty places importance on this, and even personally came here to meet Chairman Sue, I think it must be something very important. I also understand this. But I've thought about it over the past 2 days, and there shouldn't be any accidents in the cooperation between our new flyer and the Kingdom of Ruhr. Even if there were some small mistakes, I don't think it would be enough for His Majesty to personally come." Sue said with a frown. I'm not too clear on this. However, Chairman Sue, although our previous cooperation has been smooth, it doesn't mean that our future cooperation will be as smooth, right? Perhaps His Majesty wants to discuss some new cooperation with Chairman Sue, so to show his sincerity, he came to see you in person. Sue narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at Company Count, who was smiling amiably. From Count Company's words, he was keenly aware that there was a hint of information that was revealed in it. "So, King Tarek wants to discuss a new cooperation with me." This wasn't surprising, because compared to the Lampari Kingdom, the cooperation between the Kingdom of Ruhr and the new flyer was lacking. For example, the Lampari Kingdom was already cooperating with the new flyer in terms of production magic machines. The Lampari Kingdom also had several steel mills that the Kingdom of Ruhr didn't have. Then the most important thing was that the Lampari Kingdom had cooperated with the new flyer in terms of military magic machines a long time ago. Although after the new flyer left the Lampari Kingdom, the cooperation between them in terms of military magic machines had stopped and there wasn't any progress, the Lampari Kingdom had a foundation in this aspect, so there was a gap between them and the other countries. For example, the magic repeating crossbow, which was a simple military magic machine that the new flyer had designed at the beginning, had already become a standard in the Lampari Kingdom's army. Adding in the military weapon and armor factories that the new flyer had left behind, the Lampari Kingdom's army had become the most complete army among the surrounding countries, so their battle strength couldn't be compared to before. Obviously, the surrounding countries were well aware of this. The Kingdom of Ruhr was a kingdom that was on the same level as the Lampari Kingdom, so it was normal for them to care about this. King Medaruk had shown such great sincerity, it was very likely that he was here to discuss the cooperation in terms of military magic machines with Su-yi. If he really made this request, how should I respond? Su-yi knit his brows as he fell into deep thought. According to his original intentions, of course he just wanted to promote household magic machines on the continent, thus improving the lives of the people on the continent. But since the military magic machines had already been developed, with their strong might, they wouldn't be able to escape the attention of the other countries. Of course Su-yi was already prepared for this, but in his plan, he had to be careful when it came to the military magic machines. The most basic requirement was that New Flyer had to completely suppress the other powers in terms of military magic machines. They definitely couldn't sell the military magic machines to other powers, which would threaten New Flyer. Su-yi had always controlled this very well. He only sold a part of the military magic machines to other countries, and the core part was still owned by the Frestek Chamber of Commerce. This ensured that the Frestek Chamber of Commerce's guards had an absolute advantage in battle strength. But as New Flyer's research on military magic machines became more and more profound, Su-yi began to sell a small portion of the military magic machines to the outside world. For example, the 3 guard ships he sold to the Kanla Empire's navy, which were equipped with several magic cannons and small magic bazookas. It could be considered the highest-end military magic machines New Flyer had sold to other powers. The Lampari Kingdom didn't have a coast, so they didn't have a high demand for these. But the Kingdom of Ruhr had a coast to the south, so perhaps King Tarek wanted to buy a few guard ships to play with? With these doubts, the magic sedan with Su-yi came to a stop in the north of Nissi City. He, Count Company, and his followers got out of the car and waited for less than 20 minutes before they saw a bit of dust coming from the road to the north. After a while, they saw a motorcade of magic sedans quickly heading over. Seeing this motorcade, Su-yi couldn't help being surprised. Although the magic sedans had already become popular in the Kingdom of Ruhr, King Tarek had always kept his tradition and always rode a traditional horse carriage when he went out. Of course, this was deeply related to his expensive horse carriage. King Tarek rarely left Caracas City, so for short trips, riding his custom-made horse carriage was clearly a better choice. But Su-yi had already revealed to him that New Flyer was developing a super luxurious and safe magic sedan. It was specially made for important people like King Tarek, satisfying their needs when they went out. King Tarek was very happy to say that once New Flyer released this special magic sedan, he would order one as soon as possible. But New Flyer hadn't developed this special magic sedan yet, but King Tarek had taken the initiative to come in a magic sedan this time. Other than pursuing speed, it was also to show Su-yi his sincerity. However, Su-yi firmly believed that one who was unaccountably solicitous was hiding evil intentions. King Tarek had suddenly shown such sincerity to him, so what he was after definitely wasn't something that was easy to satisfy. Su-yi slightly knit his brows as he watched the motorcade approach. When the first magic sedan stopped outside the station, he and Count came out to greet them, but they still had a smile on their faces. Chairman Su, long time no see. King Tarek came out of the back seat of the magic sedan in the middle, and when he saw Su-yi, he came over with a wide smile. Su-yi quickly came over and gave King Tarek a bow before respectfully saying, "Greetings to your Majesty. Your Majesty coming personally really makes my heart uneasy." King Tarek laughed before patting Su-yi's shoulder. "Chairman Su, you aren't a citizen of our Kingdom of Ruhr, so you don't need to be this cautious in front of me. Come, let's go in and talk." Su-yi doubtfully followed King Tarek into the station. King Tarek sat down at a table that had been prepared a long time ago before pointing at the other side to have Su-yi sit across from him. Su-yi pretended to decline before also sitting down. King Tarek turned his head and the guards he brought understood. They drove out everyone in the station, even Count Company wasn't an exception. In this large station, there was only King Tarek and Su-yi left. After everyone left, King Tarek looked over Sui before saying with a smile, "Chairman Su, I wonder, did your trip to the Kanla Empire go smoothly?" Sui replied with a faint smile, "Thanks to your Majesty's concern, it went quite smoothly." "That's good." King Tarek gave a laugh. After thinking for a bit, he suddenly patted the table and said with a sigh, "Chairman Su, I couldn't contact you this time, so I finally realized an important problem." "What problem?" "It's no wonder your new flyer is building magic signal towers in the Principality of Constantine, and now the Lampari Kingdom is following suit. Once these magic signal towers are built, people who are thousands of miles away can communicate at any time, which is countless times more convenient than the current situation. If our Kingdom of Ruhr also had magic signal towers, I wouldn't need to come here to meet you. At least it would be easier to contact you, right?" Sui never thought that King Tarek's first topic would be magic signal towers, so he couldn't help being surprised. If your Majesty is willing, our new flyer is very willing to cooperate with your country. We can build magic signal towers in the Kingdom of Ruhr and build a magic communication network." "Is that so?" "Alright, Chairman Su, we'll do this. In a few days, I'll send someone to discuss the matter of building magic signal towers in our kingdom with your company. I hope that you can cooperate." King Tarek patted the table again and said with a serious look. Sui was surprised. He never thought that King Tarek would be this decisive, deciding everything just like that. But thinking about it, he didn't feel that there was a problem. He said with a nod, "Alright, this is what our company is promoting right now, so we'll do our best to cooperate." King Tarek wasn't like the other nobles of the Lampari Kingdom who were worried about the magic signal towers, so naturally Sui didn't need to ask. Based on this, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's advertisement for the magic signal towers had some effect. Of course, King Tarek must have investigated this matter, otherwise he wouldn't have made this decision so easily. Seeing that Sui agreed so quickly, King Tarek gave a satisfied nod. After pausing, he continued, "The magic signal towers are only a small matter. I'm meeting you this time to discuss something else." Sui wasn't surprised at all. He silently looked at King Tarek, waiting for him to speak. King Tarek was silent for a bit before suddenly looking to the northwest before saying, "Chairman Su, you've been far away during this time, so you don't know that something big has happened recently." "Your Majesty, please tell me." King Tarek turned to look at Sui with narrowed eyes and a serious expression. "Half a month ago, the Lampari Kingdom declared war on the Sak Kingdom, and now they've captured 3 southern cities, occupying a third of the Sak Kingdom's southern province. Chapter 798. What? Sui suddenly stood up, and because he stood up too quickly, he slammed into the table. The entire table was raised up and it made a large pung sound. King Tarek turned to wave his hand at the guards who came in after hearing the sound, telling them that it was fine before chasing them out. Then he looked at Sui, waiting for his reaction. Sui was in a daze for a bit before his expression slowly calmed down and he sat down again. After a bit of silence, Sui asked, "Your Majesty, can you tell me what the cause is?" Seeing that Sui had calmed down this quickly, King Tarek had a look of praise on his face as he replied, "The cause. On the surface, it's because of a smuggling case." "Smuggling case?" Sui knit his brows. Because the Lampari Kingdom and the Sak Kingdom were enemies for many years, the trade between the two countries depended on smuggling. But since the free trade zone between the two countries was opened, because there was a place for free trade, this kind of smuggling case had decreased by a lot. Even if there was, most of it was just a small matter to avoid tariff. It didn't affect the big picture and wasn't taken seriously by both sides, so it was impossible for it to cause a war between the two countries. The only smuggling case that could have such a huge impact was probably related to that aspect. As expected, King Tarek continued with a nod, "Yes. According to the news released by the Lampari Kingdom, there are people from the Lampari Kingdom who are smuggling military magic machines to the Sac Kingdom. After saying this, King Tarek looked at Su-Yi and found that he wasn't surprised at all. He just slightly knit his brows, so he knew that Su-Yi was definitely aware of this matter. After the Lampari Kingdom found out, they began to attack this smuggling case and finally traced it to the Sac Kingdom. In the beginning, the Lampari Kingdom wanted the Sac Kingdom to hand over the smugglers, but they were rejected by the Sac Kingdom. In the end, there was a conflict between the two sides and the Lampari Kingdom lost 7 soldiers, while the Sac Kingdom lost several dozen border guards and several civilians. And then? They directly declared war? Su-Yi asked with a strange look. Yes. The Lampari Kingdom quickly announced that the Sac Kingdom had attacked the Lampari Kingdom first, so they officially declared war on the Sac Kingdom. As for the result, I've already said it. Su-Yi deeply knit his brows. King Tarek naturally didn't need to lie to him about this matter, but no matter how he thought it, he felt that this matter was strange. Even if the Lampuri Kingdom and the Sac Kingdom had been enemies for several hundred years, it wasn't that easy for these two kingdoms to declare war on each other. Not to mention that it wasn't easy for the two countries to establish a free trade zone, opening up trade for the first time in several hundred years. Now that it was developing normally, the Lampuri Kingdom could obtain large benefits from selling all kinds of magic machines and magic machine products to the Sac Kingdom. In this situation, how could the Lampari Kingdom suddenly declare war on the Sac Kingdom for no reason and really start a war, even taking over a third of the Sac Kingdom's southern province? Perhaps for the people of the Lampari Kingdom, who had been suppressed by the Sac Kingdom for several hundred years, this was something worth feeling proud of, but for Su-Yi, this was completely strange. Who decided to go to war? Was it Her Majesty Seveni? Su-Yi shook his head and denied this guess. Because he was clear that Seveni wasn't a brainless person. Moreover, when they signed the contract with the Sac Kingdom, establishing the free trade zone, it was something that Su-Yi had discussed with her. Seveni was very clear on how much benefit the Lampari Kingdom could obtain from this free trade zone, and the data from last year and this year had proven this. Su-Yi didn't believe that Seveni didn't understand the benefits of maintaining this situation for the Lampari Kingdom, so it was impossible for her to take the initiative to start a war to destroy this good situation. But if it wasn't Seveni, the one who made this decision should be someone else in the Lampari Kingdom. However, if it really was like this, it proved another terrifying possibility. It was that Seveni couldn't truly control the Lampari Kingdom, so she couldn't even stop the Sac Kingdom from going to war. This possibility was even more shocking to Su-Yi than Seveni taking the initiative to start a war. Although he had appeared in the Lampari Kingdom after transmigrating to this world and had lived in the Lampari Kingdom for several years, adding in the fact that the new flyer was founded and raised in the Lampari Kingdom, he had a special feeling for the Lampari Kingdom. But the reason why he supported the Lampari Kingdom was mostly because of his good relationship with Seveni. He believed that Seveni was a suitable leader for the Lampari Kingdom and supported her dream of changing people's lives with magic machines. But if the Lampari Kingdom wasn't under Seveni's control, it meant that Su-Yi's support and investments in the Lampari Kingdom had lost their foundation and were no longer under his control. In Su-Yi's mind, Seveni was one with the Lampari Kingdom. If it wasn't for the Lampari Kingdom under Seveni's control, he wouldn't have any special treatment for the Lampari Kingdom. So if the latter speculation was true, it would have a serious impact on Su-Yi and the new flyer. Thinking of this, Su-Yi asked King Tarek in a deep voice, "Your Majesty, who is the Lampari Kingdom declaring war on the Sac Kingdom in the name of?" King Tarek didn't seem surprised that Su-Yi asked this question. He replied with a faint smile, "Of course it's in the name of Her Majesty Seveni." Her Majesty Seveni even issued a declaration of war through the Lampuri Weekly before the war began. I brought this Lampuri Weekly over. Do you want to take a look? Sui was silent for a bit before nodding. He took the Lampuri Weekly from King Tarek's hands. This declaration of war in Seveni's name was printed on the front page of the Lampuri Weekly, and it was written in large letters, looking very eye-catching. The declaration was written on the front page and second page of the Lampuri Weekly, with around 3,000 words. Sui carefully read the declaration, but he didn't seriously read the contents of the article, rather he focused on the tone of the article. If it was just based on the article itself, Sui felt that this declaration of war was indeed written by Seveni because the wording, the tone, and everything else were the same as the Seveni that Sui was familiar with. It seemed like it was written by her. But after reading it, Sui wasn't in a rush to make a conclusion. After thinking for a bit, he put down the newspaper and looked back at King Tarek. Before he personally saw Seveni and received her confirmation, Sui would only put his speculations in his heart. The question in front of him now was why King Tarek specially came to inform him of this and even acted this anxious. Many thanks for your majesty telling me about this matter. This will have a large effect on our company's future plans, so knowing this ahead of time can prepare ahead of time. Sui first thanked King Tarek before thinking for a bit before asking, "But your majesty, did you specially summon me just to tell me about this matter?" King Tarek laughed and sat up straight in his chair. He narrowed his eyes as he looked at Sui for a bit before slowly shaking his head. "Of course not. Chairman Su, I don't need to say it, you should be able to guess what I came to discuss with you, right?" Sui was silent for a bit before giving a sigh. "If my guesses aren't wrong, your majesty should be here to discuss the matter of the military magic machines. Telling me about this matter, is it to remind me that the Lampari kingdom isn't as reliable as I thought? The first half isn't wrong, but the second half." King Tarek laughed into the sky, but he didn't make any comment. "As for the military magic machines, I've mentioned it to Chairman Su many times before, but you've always rejected me. I thought that I could wait patiently before, but after the Lampari kingdom declared war on the Sak kingdom, I feel that it's hard to keep waiting." Sui raised a brow as he looked at King Tarek. "There's no need to put on this look of doubt. Chairman Su, this time I made a large decision to discuss this with you. Look, I even left Karaka City and personally came here to meet you, so I think that I've already shown my sincerity. Then Chairman Su, shouldn't you also show your sincerity?" Sui was silent for a bit before giving a slight nod. "All right, Your Majesty. Let's be a bit more direct. Do you want to buy the military magic machines from our company? If I said that I hope that you can transfer the military magic machine technology to our kingdom of Ruhr, would you agree?" "I wouldn't." Sui shook his head without any hesitation. King Tarek gave a sigh before shaking his head. "So I'm not planning on making this proposal. What I want is to buy the military magic machines from your company for now." Sui noticed the word "for now" and smiled. He didn't mind as he asked, "Then Your Majesty, how many military magic machines are you planning on buying, and what kind of military magic machines do you need?" King Tarek narrowed his eyes. "Chairman Su, can I treat this as you agreeing? I've never rejected selling the military magic machines to the kingdom of Ruhr. But as for the specifics, we still need to discuss it, right?" "All right, then let's start discussing it." Chapter 799. 3 days later, the magic airship took off from Nissi Harbor again. This time, its destination wasn't the Azhara tribe or the Principality of Constantine. Rather it was heading northwest, heading towards the Lampari Kingdom's capital, Anvilmar City. During the 3 days in Nissi City, Sui and King Tarek had many private discussions. Based on the results, the two sides didn't make any substantial progress, and they didn't even sign any agreement. But in the private discussions with King Tarek, Sui had reached some agreements with the Kingdom of Ruhr, which could be considered a private agreement. For example, when King Tarek mentioned the magic signal towers in the Rudsun Kingdom in the beginning, Su-yi strongly approved of this and expressed his full support. Both sides agreed that in a month, the Kingdom of Ruhr would send people to the Principality of Constantine to inspect the functions of the magic signal towers in the Principality of Constantine. If nothing unexpected happened, the Kingdom of Ruhr would invite the new flyer to build magic signal towers in the Kingdom of Ruhr, creating a magic communication network that belonged to the Kingdom of Ruhr. But King Tarek had clearly investigated the magic signal towers, so he proposed to Su-yi that the core of the magic communication network in the Kingdom of Ruhr had to be controlled by the Kingdom of Ruhr. He even said something like, magic signal frequency, which surprised Su-yi. Su-yi didn't oppose King Tarek's request. He said that after the new flyer helped the Kingdom of Ruhr build the magic communication network, they would give the core to the Kingdom of Ruhr, guaranteeing that the magic communication network would be completely controlled by the Kingdom of Ruhr. Su-yi's only request was that the magic communication network in the Kingdom of Ruhr could connect with the magic communication network in the Lampari Kingdom and the Principality of Constantine. This would guarantee that the three countries would be able to communicate with each other in the future. King Tarek agreed to Su-yi's request, so the negotiations between them went very smoothly. Other than this, King Tarek also hoped that the new flyer would set up several steel mills and non-ferrous metal smelting factories in the Kingdom of Ruhr. He also promised that when the ores supplied to these smelting factories, it wouldn't be included in the share of the ores supplied to the new flyer, guaranteeing that these smelting factories would have enough resources to smelt. Su-yi also agreed to this proposal, but there were some differences in terms of how the two sides would split the shares. King Tarek wanted the Kingdom of Ruhr to control these smelting factories, but this was firmly opposed by Su-yi. In the end, he took a step back and agreed to new flyer controlling these smelting factories, but the Kingdom of Ruhr had to have a certain share. He also requested that new flyer couldn't set up any obstacles in the smelting technology. Su-yi agreed to this, but he also proposed that the new flyer had the right to distribute the metals smelted by these smelting factories and the Kingdom of Ruhr couldn't interfere. After a few rounds of negotiations, both sides finally reached a preliminary agreement. These smelting factories would officially start construction in the spring of next year. If there were no accidents, they would officially start production at the end of the next year. King Tarek also hoped that new flyer would expand its cooperation with the Kingdom of Ruhr beyond the field of household magic machines. After a few rounds of negotiations, Su-yi represented new flyer to agree to build a bicycle factory and a tire factory in the Kingdom of Ruhr. This was the first attempt of cooperation beyond the field of household magic machines. The bicycle factory and tire factory would be built directly outside of Karaka City. New Flyer and Karaka City would also collaborate to hold a bicycle competition in Karaka City to promote bicycles in the Kingdom of Ruhr. In other aspects, the two sides had also reached some basic intentions, but they had not yet entered into actual discussions, so they could be skipped over. The most important part of the discussion was, of course, the military magic machines. According to King Tarek's request, he hoped that New Flyer could sell all the military magic machines to the Kingdom of Ruhr. But Su-yi clearly wouldn't agree to this. So after many discussions, they finally decided that New Flyer would provide large amounts of magic repeating crossbows, small magic bazookas, magic trebuchets, and other military magic machines to the Kingdom of Ruhr. At the same time, they would also sell 300 armored magic vehicles, 100 small magic cannons, and 4 guard ships to the Kingdom of Ruhr. If this agreement was reached, the total amount involved would be 27 million gold coins. It could be said that this was the largest deal New Flyer had made since it was established. Of course, this deal wasn't something that could be completed in a day or two. According to the budget, Su-yi had given them 3 years to complete this deal. Even if King Tarek said that this time was a bit long, Sui said that New Flyer's production capacity was limited and this was already the fastest speed, so King Tarek could only accept it. But no matter what, after reaching an agreement with Sui, King Tarek was very happy. If it wasn't for Sui saying that he wanted to take a trip to the Lampari kingdom, he would have sent people to the Principality of Constantine to investigate and confirm this deal as soon as possible. Of course, King Tarek was very understanding when Sui said that he wanted to take a trip to the Lampari kingdom. It would be strange if he didn't understand. Sui thought of the deep smile on King Tarek's face when he said goodbye, and he couldn't help cursing in his heart. The matter of the Lampari kingdom declaring war on the Sak kingdom, even if King Tarek didn't rush over to tell him, Sui would have learned of this matter when he returned to the Principality of Constantine. But he used this reason to come and meet with Sui. Actually, it was just like Sui said before. In order to show Sui that the Lampari kingdom wasn't a reliable partner, the kingdom of Ruhr who had shown great sincerity could be considered by Sui. If it was said that Sui didn't have this idea, it would be impossible. But when he agreed to cooperate with the kingdom of Ruhr on the military magic machines, it wasn't related to this. Actually, even if King Tarek didn't come to him, Sui was already planning to sell the military magic machines to the kingdom of Ruhr. Now that King Tarek had delivered himself to him, it saved him quite a bit of effort and he took this chance to raise the price. In the end, the price of this deal was much higher than he expected, which could be considered a pleasant surprise. To put it bluntly, whether it was the military magic machines or the household magic machines, they were just products. The difference was that the military magic machines had a bigger impact, so Sui had to be more cautious. It wasn't good to keep the military magic machines in his hands forever. The other countries and powers would have scruples about the new flyer, creating many disadvantages. It wasn't good to only sell the military magic machines to the Lampari kingdom. This would make the surrounding countries more vigilant against the new flyer and the Lampari kingdom, greatly affecting their cooperation with the new flyer. So Sui already wanted to sell the military magic machines to the surrounding countries. The kingdom of Ruhr was the new flyer's partner second only to the Lampari kingdom, so this agreement was a very good choice for both sides. Then again, Sui even agreed to sell the military magic machines to the Sak kingdom, so how could he reject the request of the kingdom of Ruhr? Thinking of the Sak kingdom, Sui felt a headache coming on. If the Sak kingdom and the Lampari kingdom weren't enemies, and if the Sak kingdom hadn't attacked the new flyer before, everything would be easy to take care of. But because of these problems, it was very hard for the new flyer to establish a relationship with the Sak kingdom. Sui didn't know why the Lampari kingdom suddenly chose to declare war on the Sak kingdom, but after thinking about it for a few days, he vaguely felt that it was related to him agreeing to sell the military magic machines to the Sak kingdom before. "Sir Chairman, we've already connected to Chief Evita." A subordinate came over with a small magic communicator. Sui took it with a nod before walking to a corner of the magic airship and saying in a low voice, "Hello? Is this Evita?" "It's me. Sir Chairman, you're back?" Evita's voice came from the magic communicator. "I'm currently at the border between the Principality of Constantine and the Lampari kingdom. I'm planning to take a trip to the Lampari kingdom." Sui explained a bit. "Evita, did the people of the Sak kingdom come before?" "They did, they just left a week ago." "Then, they should know that the Lampari kingdom declared war on the Sak kingdom, right? What was their reaction?" "Sir Chairman also knows." Evita's voice had a trace of surprise before replying. "They were also surprised, but they still stayed to discuss with us." "What was the result of the discussion?" "According to your orders, we agreed to most of their requests, but as for the specific arrangements, we need you to make a decision after you come back. The Sak kingdom left 2 people here, saying that they were waiting for you to come back to discuss with you. Alright, keep them here for now, but don't agree to any further requests. Everything will be discussed after I come back from the Lampari Kingdom. Yes. Evita replied before giving a hesitant voice. Sir Chairman, if you head to the Lampari Kingdom now, will there be any problems? Hearing the worry in Evita's voice, Su Yi's lips curled into a smile as he replied. It won't, the Lampari Kingdom can't leave me for now. Evita was silent for a bit before giving an unsound. All right, then I hope that Sir Chairman will have a smooth trip. All right. Su Yi hung up and let out a sigh of relief. If even Evita could notice that there was something wrong with this matter, then many people would be able to notice it as well. Since it was this simple to see, what was the Lampari Kingdom's side, or rather Seveni thinking? Chapter 800. The border between the Principality of Constantine and the Lampari Kingdom was around 800 kilometers away from Anvilmar City. With the speed of the magic airship, they could get there in 8 hours. Su Yi was planning on leaving early in the morning, so he could reach Anvilmar City in the afternoon. If nothing unexpected happened, he would be able to have dinner with Seveni at night and discuss the matter of the Lampari Kingdom going to war with the Sac Kingdom with Seveni. But when they set off the next day, when it was noon, when the magic airship reached Kramer City that was 200 kilometers away from Anvilmar City, there was a bit of an accident. Sir Chairman, it seems like there are several people flying over. When the pilot of the magic airship reported this to Su Yi, he had a surprised look on his face. The new flyer's magic airship had been in the testing phase for close to 2 years now. It was unknown how many places they had flown to during this time, but this was the first time they had encountered people flying in the sky. Su Yi looked out the porthole and saw several black dots quickly approaching in the distance. It was clear that those who could fly in the sky were magicians. But why would these magicians of the Lampari Kingdom suddenly appear in front of the magic airship? With the fame of the new flyer in the Lampari Kingdom, how could they not recognize that this was the new flyer's magic airship? Su Yi knit his brows to think before having the pilot stop the magic airship. Then he opened the door and flew over. Chairman Su, long time no see. The magician leading them was one that Su Yi recognized. It was the current vice-chairman of the Lampari Kingdom's Sorcerers' Guild, Larkstein, who was a 9th-grade magician. When Su Yi participated in the Sorcerers' Guild certification exam and when he met President Aaron, he had met him many times. Even if he didn't have the status of the New Flyers chairman, Su Yi was still an outstanding magician. He had even become a powerful great magician in his early 30s, so he was also famous in the circle of magicians of the Lampari Kingdom. Larkstein was the Sorcerers' Guild's vice-chairman, but when he saw Su Yi, he had to follow the rules of magicians. He had to greet Su Yi, who was a great magician, first. Su Yi gave him a bow before looking over the magicians beside him. He found that they were wearing the robes of high-grade magicians, so they weren't weak. Although they couldn't pose any threat to Su Yi, it was rare for them to send so many powerful high-grade magicians at once. Vice Chairman Larkstein, you are... Seeing the doubtful look on Su Yi's face, Larkstein quickly said with a smile, Chairman Su, we're here to stop. To welcome you. Welcome? Su Yi knit his brows as he felt a bit unsettled. First the Lampari Kingdom had declared war on the Sac Kingdom, and then Larkstein had led several high-grade magicians to welcome. No, it was clear that they were here to stop his group. This strange situation made Su Yi think of a guess from before, and he couldn't help feeling worried. Could it be that something really happened to Seveni that made her lose control of the Lampari Kingdom? Was the situation so serious that even he would be stopped by someone? What happened that you had to specially come to welcome us? Su Yi asked in a deep voice. This. Larkstein's expression was a bit awkward. After giving a cough, he flew closer to Su Yi. Su Yi knit his brows. He wanted to move away, but after thinking about it, he stayed where he was and let Larkstein come closer. At the same time, he gathered magic in his body, ready to use it at any moment. Chairman Su, the Kingdom Parliament passed a Lampari Kingdom's airspace regulations last week. It clearly prohibits magicians and flying items from other countries from flying in the Lampari Kingdom's airspace. You and your magic airship are prohibited, so... We should have stopped you at the border, but you were just too fast, so we only stopped you when you came here. Lampari Kingdom's airspace regulations? Sui looked at Larkstein with incomparable surprise. When did the Lampari Kingdom's parliament have this much foresight, actually paying attention to protecting their airspace? It had to be known, airspace was something that Sui had mentioned to Seveni in private before. Because the magic airships hadn't been mass-produced yet, Seveni didn't care that much about this. Sui never thought that the Lampari Kingdom's parliament would actually pass this regulation. But this regulation could have been passed at any time, but it had to be passed at this sensitive time. This made Sui even more doubtful. This was passed by the Kingdom Parliament? Did Her Majesty Seveni give any opinions on this? Sui kept asking. Larkstein seemed to have expected that Sui would ask this question, so he replied with a smile. It was Her Majesty who personally proposed it, and it was passed by the Kingdom Parliament. This answer was a bit out of Sui's expectations. He thought that something had happened to Seveni that caused her to lose control of the Lampari Kingdom, causing the Lampari Kingdom to do all these unreasonable things. But with Larkstein's answer, it meant that Seveni was still firmly on the throne and nothing seemed to have happened. Of course, it was possible that Larkstein was lying. Sui was silent for a bit before asking Larkstein, "Then you mean that we can't keep flying in the air?" Larkstein revealed an apologetic smile. At least before receiving the approval of the Kingdom Parliament or Her Majesty, Chairman Su and your magic airship can't keep flying in our Lampari Kingdom's airspace. Otherwise, you will be violating the rules of the Kingdom Parliament and we must intercept you. Hearing Larkstein finally say the word intercept, Sui shook his head and gave a sigh. He had Larkstein wait a bit before flying back to the magic airship. Sir Chairman, did something happen? Akali, who was calculating the data in the airship, came over to ask this. It's hard to explain right now. Akali, take this magic airship back to the company first. I'll be back in a few days. Akali was surprised. Sir Chairman, you're going alone? But didn't you say? No problem, you can go back first. Seeing Akali's worried look, Sui patted her shoulder and said with a smile, Don't forget, I am a great magician. Akali hesitated a bit before giving a nod, then, Sir Chairman, you have to be careful. Sui waved his hand at her with a smile before leaving the Xinfei airship. When he was a bit further away, the magic airship in the air moved slightly and turned to head southwest. Chairman Su, this. Larkstein pointed at the magic airship that was quickly flying away and hesitantly asked Sui this. Don't worry, they will leave the Lampari Kingdom as quickly as possible and return to the Principality of Constantine. Sui looked at the magicians behind Larkstein, and those magicians stopped moving, turning their attention back to Sui. All right. Chairman Su, please come with us. When we left Anvilmar City, there was an order from Her Majesty from the royal palace. She said that after we stopped the magic airship, we would bring you to see Her Majesty. Larkstein made an inviting gesture to Sui. Was it really an order from Seveni? Sui looked at Larkstein, but he didn't ask this question. Rather, he flew down to Kramer City with him. Larkstein's group was clearly prepared to stop Sui above Kramer City. After they entered Kramer City, they went to the City Lord's Manor and found the two magic sedans the City Lord's Manor had prepared ahead of time. The other magicians went in the first car to lead the way while Larkstein and Sui sat in the car behind. The two magic sedans didn't stay in the City Lord's Manor for long and directly drove off, quickly heading towards Anvilmar City. Sui looked at the situation of Kramer City through the window on the way and found that the situation of Kramer City wasn't any different from before. It was just as prosperous as before, and the people walking on the streets all had normal expressions, not seeming like they were affected by the outside world at all. Of course, this world's information system wasn't developed. Even if something happened several hundred kilometers away, the people of Kramer City wouldn't know. Hoping that these citizens would react to the upper class of the Lampari Kingdom would be overestimating them. But at least based on the current situation, it could be seen that the situation in the Lampari Kingdom was still stable. It hadn't reached the point where it affected the lower-class citizens. This made Sue-yi feel much more assured. At least based on what Larkstein had just said, he knew that nothing had happened to Seveni. Then as long as he could see Seveni, even if Seveni was in trouble, Sue-yi was confident in helping her. When Eric was still on the throne, Seveni could be considered in the most dangerous situation. At that time, Sue-yi could rely on the support of New Flyer to help Seveni overthrow Eric's rule and bring the Lampari Kingdom under her control. Now that several years had passed, whether it was New Flyer or Seveni, they were both stronger than before, so there was nothing that could stop them. Thinking of this, Sue-yi's mood calmed down. He looked away from the street and turned to Larkstein to ask, "Vice Chairman Larkstein, what is the situation with the war with the Sack Kingdom?" Chapter 801. Kramer City was 200 kilometers away from Anvilmar City, so if one took a magic sedan, it would take at least 4 hours to get there. When the sun set in the distance, Sue-yi saw the city walls of Anvilmar City. "Chairman Sue, I will send you to the gates of the royal palace. What happens next isn't related to us." Larkstein looked at the city gates in the distance and said to Sue-yi. Sue-yi nodded and didn't say anything else. There was something strange about this incident from beginning to end. For example, although Larkstein's group said that they were following the Lampari Kingdom's airspace regulations to stop the magic airship, their actions afterwards showed that they were here to stop Sue-yi. They even accompanied Sue-yi all the way from Kramer City to Anvilmar City, as if they were afraid that Sue-yi would run away. However, this made Sue-yi even more confused. If there really was a problem and someone in the Lampari Kingdom wanted to harm him, they wouldn't just send Larkstein and his trivial high-grade magicians. The matter of Sue-yi becoming a great magician was something that everyone in the surrounding countries knew about. If they really wanted to deal with Sue-yi, just Larkstein's group was far from enough. But if it wasn't to deal with Sue-yi, sending these high-grade magicians just to escort Sue-yi, or rather escort him to the Lampuri Kingdom's royal palace, this was a bit too much of a waste. On the way, Sue-yi had asked Larkstein about this, but Larkstein had said that it was Her Majesty's order and they were just following it. Sue-yi couldn't obtain any more information, so naturally he couldn't make any judgments. He could only wait and see. Akali was worried about Sue-yi's safety before leaving, but Sue-yi wasn't worried at all. First, he was already a powerful great magician, and because of Elder Lysania, Elder Elucia, and Teacher Carmilla, he had never relaxed on increasing his magic power. At the end of last year, he had broken through again and became a second-grade great magician. With his strength alone, unless the remaining 3 great magicians of the Lampari Kingdom made a move together, it was impossible for anyone else to pose a threat to him. If he really couldn't, he could still run away. Second, he was the New Flyers chairman. With the New Flyers' powerful influence and the cooperation between the New Flyer and the Lampari Kingdom, no matter who controlled the situation in the Lampari Kingdom, they would only show goodwill to him and wouldn't easily offend him. Especially at this sensitive time when the Lampari Kingdom and the Sack Kingdom were at war, if they really offended Sue-yi and the New Flyer, causing the New Flyer to support the Lampari Kingdom, there would be no benefits for the Lampari Kingdom at all. The reason why Sue-yi obediently came to Anvilmar City with Larkstein was just to confirm Seveni's current situation. If it was said that he was a bit worried before, now that he thought that as long as there was nothing wrong with Seveni, it wouldn't be a big problem, so he could relax. Seeing that they were about to enter Anvilmar City, Su Yi's heart was filled with anticipation. Although it had only been 2 months since he last saw Seveni, because of the strange actions in the Lampari Kingdom, he was a bit worried about Seveni and missed her even more. Every time he thought of this, he felt a bit of regret. If he could have met Seveni earlier and decided to promote the magic signal towers in the Lampari Kingdom, he might have already built the communication line between the new Flight Commerce main base and Anvilmar City. He wouldn't have needed to come all the way to Anvilmar City to confirm Seveni's situation. Although the new flyer was currently working with the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to build the magic signal towers, because this was the first time they were building such a large scale, according to the plan, it would take at least the end of next year to finish. It was still far from being able to communicate freely. Chairman Su, if you have time after your meeting with Her Majesty, Chairman Aaron would like to meet you. When the magic sedan brought Su-Yi to the east gate of the royal palace and Su-Yi got out, Larkstein suddenly lowered his voice to speak to Su-Yi. Su-Yi considered it before giving a nod to show that he understood. Larkstein sat back in the magic sedan with a smile and left with his subordinate. When Larkstein left, 2 maids came out of the royal palace and came in front of Su-Yi, giving a bow to Su-Yi. Chairman Su, Her Majesty is waiting for you. Su-Yi looked at the 2 maids and thought of Betty and Carol, who were still in his private manor in the Principality of Constantine. The 2 of them had been Seveni's personal maids, but after Seveni sent them to Su-Yi's side, it seemed like Seveni had changed the 2 of them to be her personal maids. All right, bring me to see Her Majesty. The 2 maids gave another bow to Su-Yi. When they stood up, they curiously looked over Su-Yi before turning to lead Su-Yi in. Since Seveni took the throne, although Su-Yi didn't come to the Lampuri royal palace that many times, it was enough for him to be an honored guest in the royal palace. He enjoyed treatment that many important ministers of the Lampari kingdom couldn't enjoy. For example, after the 2 maids brought Su-Yi into the royal palace, they led the way in front and brought him to the back half of the royal palace, which was the area mainly used for living. Normally speaking, this kind of private area was only accessible to the people closest to the king. It was clear that Su-Yi was one of them. Su-Yi was a bit surprised, but he wasn't surprised to see Seveni in a small pavilion in the royal palace's back garden. When he saw Seveni, Su-Yi let out a long sigh of relief. Seveni's face was red and her expression was normal. There was a strange smile on her face, but it wasn't forced at all. No matter which angle he looked at it from, it didn't seem like something had happened. It was clear that she didn't encounter an accident like Su-Yi was worried about. Rather, she looked good, like she had been resting well during this time. Sit. Seveni casually pointed at the seat in front of her as she spoke to Su-Yi. Su-Yi wasn't polite and sat down, staring at Seveni without blinking. Seveni was a bit embarrassed being stared at by Su-Yi's burning gaze. Her face turned red as she glared at him. What are you looking at me for? I'm confirming that nothing happened to you, Su-Yi said with a serious look. I was very worried before, but now that I've seen you, I can finally be assured. Worried? Worried about what? Seveni asked in a surprised voice. Su-Yi looked around and Seveni understood. She waved her hand and had the surrounding maids move away. Su-Yi still wasn't assured. He waved his hand and created a magic shield around the pavilion, isolating the sound from the outside world. Then he looked at Seveni and asked with a serious look, "Tell me, is there really nothing wrong?" Seveni revealed a smile. What could have happened? Su-Yi, you're really strange today. No, I'm not strange, the strange one is you. If nothing happened, why did you declare war on the Sak Kingdom? Su-Yi asked with a frown. Hearing this question, Seveni's expression changed and her smile disappeared. She lowered her head and after being silent for a bit, she suddenly gave a sigh and said in a soft voice, Su-Yi, you should be asking yourself this question. Su-Yi was stunned. Asking me? What does it have to do with me? Of course it's related and it's the most direct relationship. Seveny looked up at Sue and softly bit her lip, as a strange look of hidden bitterness appeared in her eyes. If it wasn't for you suddenly selling military magic machines to the Sack Kingdom, do you think that I would be willing to take the risk of losing all the benefits of our Lampari Kingdom to declare war on the Sack Kingdom? Sue was stunned before deeply knitting his brows. After thinking for a bit, he asked back in a deep voice, "You mean that declaring war on the Sack Kingdom was completely your own idea? The reason was because our new flyer was selling military magic machines to the Sack Kingdom?" "Yes." Seveny nodded without any hesitation. Sue fell silent again. After looking at Seveny for a bit, Sue gave a sigh and said with a bitter smile, "I guessed all kinds of possibilities on the way here, and I thought that this was the lowest possibility because it was too absurd, but I never thought that it would be true. Seveny, I understand your personality. You aren't the kind of person who handles things according to your personal preferences. But this matter really doesn't make sense. Can you tell me why?" Seveny took a deep look at Sue before softly replying, "Actually, you've already guessed the reason, right?" The bitter smile on Sue's face became even stronger. "I've guessed a bit, but I don't believe it. Are you doing this to warn me? It can't be considered a warning, it's just showing you my attitude." Seveny shook her head. "Sue, I know that as a company, you should develop more customers and sell more products, I understand this. But have you ever thought that your Frestek Chamber of Commerce can't be considered a normal company at all? You want to say that we have to choose our side?" Sue asked back. "Yes," Seveny honestly said. Seveny seriously said, "Our Lampari Kingdom and the Sack Kingdom have been enemies for several hundred years. There is no possibility of reconciliation. If you choose to support our Lampari Kingdom, it's best if you don't support the Sack Kingdom. In my opinion, this is completely stepping on two boats. It can even be considered a betrayal to our Lampari Kingdom." "Wait." Sue cut Seveny off. "Our new flyer doesn't belong to the Lampari Kingdom. It can't be considered a betrayal. It seems like this to me." Seveny rarely used a firm tone. Seveny said in a strong voice, "When I received the news that your new flyer had decided to sell military magic machines to the Sack Kingdom, do you know how I felt?" Seeing Seveny's red eyes, Sue was silent for a bit before saying with a bitter smile, "Seveny, personal feelings can't be combined with national interests. This will affect your judgment. But even if we look at it from the country's interest, you are seriously harming our Lampuri Kingdom." Seveny slightly raised her voice. Seveny raised her voice a little. "Sue, although the Lampari Kingdom has hurt you before, it has also helped your new flyer grow. Moreover, I've always firmly stood on the side that supported you. I've never had any bad thoughts about you. But now that you've done this, don't you think that you've seriously hurt me and the Lampari Kingdom?" Seeing Seveny's angry face, Sue shook his head with a strange expression. "Seveny, you're mistaken." "Then tell me, what kind of misunderstanding is this? If you can't explain it clearly, I'm afraid I can't forgive you." "Forgive?" Sue thought about Seveny's words and felt that something was wrong. But in this situation, he couldn't think that much. He had to solve the misunderstanding first. "Actually, it's like this." Chapter 802. After a while, there was Seveny's soft and long breath that came from the small pavilion. "Sue, for such an important matter, why didn't you tell me ahead of time or discuss it with me?" Seveny looked at Sue with a bit of resentment and confusion in her eyes, but there was also a bit of joy. "Actually, as long as you told me, I would have definitely understood and supported you, so there wouldn't have been such a serious misunderstanding." Sue spread his hands with a bitter smile and gave a helpless sigh, "Because when I met you 2 months ago, this method was only in my imagination, it wasn't confirmed yet. I can't talk to you about this matter through letters. You should know how inconvenient this is." Seveny gave an unsound and after a bit of silence she continued, "Since you know that this matter is this important, why don't you Find some time to meet me? Sui knit his brows. 70, I should be asking you this. Although this matter is very important, I wasn't in a rush because I never thought that you would be this impulsive. Because we revealed that we were selling military magic machines to the Sack Kingdom, you directly declared war on the Sack Kingdom. I have to say, this action is too rash, it isn't like you at all. 70 softly bit her lip as a trace of regret appeared in her eyes. Her expression was a bit stubborn, and she didn't respond to Sui's accusation at all. Seeing 70's reaction, Sui was very surprised. The 70 he knew and understood had a gentle and firm personality. She worked hard for her ideals, but she definitely wouldn't act rashly. Declaring war on the Sack Kingdom this time was her idea, which really went against her image. Sui even felt that it was a bit unbelievable. Could it be that there was someone in the Lampari Kingdom who influenced her to make this decision? But 70 wasn't someone who was easily influenced by others. Could it be that because she had been on the throne for too long, she was finally influenced by it and her personality changed? Sui looked at 70's face that was much more mature compared to when they first met. Her face that had lost all its childishness, and he couldn't help feeling emotional. If it really was like this was the result that Sui wasn't willing to accept the most. If 70 changed in a direction that Sui wasn't willing to see, it would be hard for their relationship to maintain. Whether it was from a personal point of view or from the new flyer's point of view, this was something that Sui didn't want to see. 70 was silent for a bit before suddenly standing up. Sui, can you go out with me? Sui was surprised as he looked at the sky that was already a bit dark because the sun had set. He thought, where are you going this late at night? Then again, with 70's status, where could she go? But seeing the expression on 70's face, Sui thought about it before nodding and standing up. When Sui removed the magic barrier and the two of them walked out, 70 waved her hand at the two maids who came over. No need to follow me, I'm going out for a walk with Chairman Su. What surprised Sui was that the two maids only took a single look at Sui before obediently leaving, not saying a single word. Sui was a bit confused. 70 was the ruler of a country, and now that she was going out with an outsider, why didn't they say anything? 70 led the way and led Sui to a corner in the back garden of the royal palace. Then she had Sui wait while she went into a small room to the side. After around 10 minutes, 70 came out with a different set of clothes. Sui looked at 70 who was wearing coarse clothes, looking no different from a normal girl, and his lips couldn't help twitching. I say, do you do this often? 70's lips curled into a naughty smile. Isn't it very boring staying in the royal palace all day? Sui shook his head and walked out of the royal palace with 70 through a secret door in the back garden. There was a very quiet alley behind the wall. 70 led Sui around the alley a few times before entering a courtyard that looked like a normal person's house. There was a man and woman enjoying dinner in the courtyard, but when 70 and Sui came in, they acted like they didn't see them at all. They didn't react at all and let the two of them pass through the courtyard before walking out the front door. Sui turned to look at the normal man and woman focused on eating, thinking that 70 had spent quite a bit of effort on this. After exiting the front door of this ordinary house, there was another small alley, but this one was noisier than the one behind the walls of the palace's backyard. Listening carefully, one could hear the noise coming from the street not far away. 70 took off the hood of her coarse clothes and put it over her head, half covering her face. She also put on her scarf, revealing only her nose and mouth. It was already late winter and there were many people dressed like this on the street, so it wasn't strange. So unless it was someone who was very familiar with her, it was impossible for anyone to recognize her. Sui looked at her and suddenly asked, 70, there's no problem doing this in the winter, but what about the summer? 70's eyes under the hood looked over and she said with a faint smile, of course there are other methods in the summer. I've been doing this for several years and there hasn't been a problem. Perhaps it was because they had left the royal palace, but Seveni's tone was much more relaxed. It didn't sound that different from a normal girl and didn't have the dignity of a queen at all. You really do this often? Sui rolled his eyes. He turned to look at the noisy street in front of him and asked, "All right, where do we go? We'll just stroll around." Seveni replied before really looking like she was strolling around, walking around the street. While looking at the people and the shops on both sides of the street, Seveni chatted with Sui from time to time. Her chattering appearance was no different from the girls who came out with their male companions. Hearing the excitement and joy in Seveni's voice, Sui gave a sigh in his heart. Seveni had told Sui many times that she wasn't interested in the throne because she felt that there would be too many restrictions after taking the throne. It would be hard for her to enjoy her freedom and the life she wanted to live. But the world changed and she was forced to take the throne in the end. Then, as she expected, because of her identity as the queen, her life was affected and restricted in many ways. Casually strolling around the streets like this was already considered an extravagant hope. Sui was certain that when she left the royal palace to stroll around, there would be many guards following her to ensure her safety, so it couldn't be considered a real stroll. But this time, because a great magician like him was by her side, her safety wasn't a problem. The more important thing was that Sui had always treated Seveni as an equal, so he didn't have any scruples because of her identity. "Sui, it would be great if you could come stroll with me more often." Halfway through, Seveni suddenly gave a sigh. Sui gave a bitter laugh, thinking that this was too extravagant a request. Even if Seveni could put down most of the Lampari kingdom's matters, could it be that he had that much time to ignore the matters of the new flyer? It wasn't easy for the two of them to even see each other, so how could they go shopping together often? But Sui knew that Seveni was just sighing, so he didn't dampen her mood. He said with a smile, "All right, as long as Steele doesn't mind, I can go shopping with you every day." Seveni gave a laugh. "Sui, I've said it before, a man who is afraid of his wife like you're the only one I've seen in my life." Sui gave a soft snort. "I don't believe it's just me. Not mentioning anything else, if you get married in the future, I don't believe that your husband will go against your wishes and be with another woman. Even if you don't mind, the people of the Lampari kingdom will definitely break his legs." "My husband?" Seveni gave a long sigh. She looked up at the starry sky before turning to Sui. "If nothing unexpected happens, I'm afraid I won't get married in this life." Sui was surprised. He then remembered that Seveni was already pregnant before marriage and had given birth to a prince. Even now, no one knew who the father of this prince was. It could be seen that Seveni had something that she couldn't mention. He suddenly brought up this topic, so it must have brought up Seveni's sad matter. Sui wanted to say sorry, but after thinking about it, he knit his brows and said to Seveni with a serious look, "Seveni, if you really treat me as a friend, tell me who that man is. I will properly educate him for you and tell him how a man should shoulder his responsibilities." Seveni turned to look at Sui and her slightly open lips revealed the surprise in her heart. After a while, she slowly shook her head. "No, just treat it as if he doesn't exist. Anyway, I already have a child, so everything else isn't important." "Not important?" Sui was a bit angry in his heart. "Seveni, even if you're a girl, no matter what your identity is, you're still a woman in the end. Is the child's father really not important to you?" "I don't believe it. Tell me, who is he? Even if that man is an important person from the Kanla Empire or the Malur Empire, I will definitely catch him for you." Seveni's lips twitched as she revealed a bitter smile. "No. When I met him, his identity was very normal, but he had many different ideas." "This means that his identity isn't normal now?" "That is even more unforgivable. Sui was suddenly stunned as he thought of something. "I understand. Seveni, it's because his identity isn't normal that you have scruples, right?" "Yes." Seveni nodded. She raised her hand and cut off Su Yi's questions. Don't ask any more. If you really treat me as a friend, then don't keep asking about this. I don't regret my decision back then. Rather, I feel very lucky to be able to meet such a different man, making my life more exciting. But everything ends here. Su Yi, don't ask about this in the future, all right? Seeing the pleading and determined look in Seveni's eyes when she looked up, Su Yi gave a sigh and turned his head away. This kind of irresponsible man can make you protect him like this. To be honest, I'm very surprised and even a bit jealous. Seveni looked at the complicated expression of anger and sadness on Su Yi's face, but she revealed a smile that couldn't be seen. Jealous? Actually, anyone in this world can be jealous of him, only you don't need to. Chapter 803. Relaxing time was a luxury for both Seveni and Su Yi. The two of them walked around the streets for around an hour before returning to the royal palace on the same path. No one disturbed the two of them when they returned to the royal palace, and no one knew the details of this secret discussion. But half a month after Su Yi left Anvil City, the Lampari Kingdom suddenly proposed a ceasefire with the Sak Kingdom. Although the Sak Kingdom felt that the Lampari Kingdom proposing a ceasefire was a kind of humiliation to them, because they couldn't resist the Lampari Kingdom's attack at all, they could only accept it in the end. For many people in the Sak Kingdom, the Lampari Kingdom taking the initiative to propose a ceasefire was something worth celebrating. The high-level nobles were worried that the Sak Kingdom would be flattened by the Lampari Kingdom, and the low-level commoners were worried that the war would seriously affect their lives. Among these commoners, the ones whose lives were most seriously affected were the people of Tuklin Town, that was the free trade zone of the previous agreement. Because Tuklin Town was the free trade zone between the two countries, this unknown town instantly became a gathering place for merchants from both countries, causing its fame to soar. At the same time, because the merchants from both countries were trading here, the town became more prosperous. Previously, most of the people in this small town lived in poverty, but with the opening of the free trade zone, their lives had undergone a drastic change. There were suddenly a lot of job opportunities in the small town. As long as anyone had hands and feet, they could find a job with a good income. They could even find an opportunity to start a small business. Therefore, it was not difficult to make a small fortune. But with the war between the two countries, the free trade zone was affected. There were no more merchants who came here, and the town became deathly silent overnight. All the businesses in the town stopped, and the people seemed to have lost their vitality. Everyone understood that with the Lampari Kingdom going to war with the Sak Kingdom again, this free trade zone would disappear. The beautiful lives they had before would become a dream that would never return. However, just as everyone was feeling hopeless, a piece of good news suddenly came. The Lampari Kingdom actually took the initiative to propose a ceasefire. After receiving this news, the people of Tuklin Town were overjoyed but also on tenterhooks every day, afraid that the upper echelons of the kingdom would not agree to the ceasefire. As long as the war continued, they could only continue their hopeless lives. Fortunately, a week after the Lampari Kingdom proposed a truce, the Sak Kingdom finally responded. They decided to accept the truce, and began to negotiate a truce with the Lampari Kingdom. Even if there were many people in the Sak Kingdom who were worried that their kingdom would suffer a loss in the ceasefire negotiations, the people of Tuklin Town didn't think that this was related to them at all. The only thing they cared about was whether the free trade zone between the two countries, represented by Tuklin Town, would reopen. Just 3 days after the two countries officially started the ceasefire negotiations, another piece of good news came, relieving the worries of the people in Tuklin. The Lampari Kingdom side first proposed that they would reopen the free trade zone between the two countries. But at the same time, the Lampari Kingdom side also proposed that they would expand the free trade zone in Tuklin Town. They would expand the area around Tuklin Town, including the 3 cities on the border between the 2 countries, into a new free trade zone. If one looked at the map, they would find that these 3 cities and Tuklin town formed a line on the border between the 2 countries, covering almost all the areas on the border between the Sak Kingdom and the Lampari Kingdom. Of course, this wasn't related to Tuklin town at all. The people of the town only knew that the free trade zone would reopen and they would regain their good days filled with vitality. 2 weeks after the 2 countries signed the new free trade zone agreement, the first caravan from the Lampari Kingdom that the people of Tuklin town were looking forward to finally arrived in Tuklin town. However, when they saw the flag flying in front of this large caravan, everyone was stunned. This flag that was completely blown by the wind had a half-wing pattern printed on it. As the flag fluttered in the wind, the half-wing kept flapping, like it would take off at any moment. They definitely wouldn't be wrong. This flag, it definitely represented the new flyer. In the past 2 years, all kinds of household magic machines had entered the Sak Kingdom, allowing everyone to see the convenience these new things brought. When buying these household magic machines, everyone received a message. It was that in the field of household magic machines, the best would always be the Shinfei brand household magic machines produced by the new flyer. But even if there were countless examples that proved this, the Shinfei brand household magic machines were only brought to Tuklin town by the merchants of the Lampari Kingdom. The new flyer had never appeared before. This time, this was the first time the new flyer's flag had appeared in Tuklin town. As for why the new flyer hadn't appeared in Tuklin town before, the people of the town had already asked around. They knew that it was because the new flyer wasn't a company of the Lampari Kingdom, so they wouldn't represent the Lampari Kingdom in entering the free trade zone between the 2 countries. But why did the new flyer come to the free trade zone this time? Moreover, the new flyer's flag was flying in front of the caravan, which was the most conspicuous, looking like they were leading the pack. Why was this? Other than the new flyer in the lead being a bit surprising, the caravan itself was also very surprising. Although the caravans from the Lampari Kingdom used many transport magic cars to transport goods, there were still some traditional transport horse carriages mixed in. The main reason was that the price of transport magic cars was quite high and some small companies couldn't afford them, so they could only use traditional transport horse carriages. But in this caravan, from beginning to end, there wasn't a single trace of a traditional transport horse carriage. Looking from front to back, there were countless large transport magic cars that formed a long caravan. As they passed through the dirt road that wasn't considered wide in Tuklin town, they raised a cloud of dust. This caravan, just based on their appearance, it was much more imposing than any other caravan from the Lampari Kingdom. Was it because the new flyer was leading the caravan this time? Everyone watched with wide eyes as the caravan quickly approached. When the new flyer's flag in front was less than a kilometer away from Tuklin town, there was a pure white magic sedan that was glowing in the sun that quickly drove out of the dust. It should have been driving in the dust for a long time, but this magic sedan was still as clean as new, without a single speck of dust on it. This magic sedan that looked very smooth and had a different kind of beauty came out of the dust at high speed, looking very shocking. Seeing this magic sedan, Tuklin town's Mayor Puyol, who had been waiting outside the town, turned to look at the important people beside him. "Go and welcome them, don't be rude." A middle-aged man with a serious expression and a wide face, who looked quite dignified, said in a deep voice. "Yes," Puyol quickly replied. With a wave of his hand, the band that had been prepared by the side began to play a welcoming song. There was also a group of children who had been prepared on both sides of the road, desperately waving the flowers in their hands. Then a group of people came forward. The magic sedan that Su-Yi personally drove slowly stopped. After coming out of the driver's seat and seeing the children and band on both sides, he couldn't help smiling. This scene couldn't help reminding him of the scenes he had seen on television back on Earth. "Chairman Su, welcome, welcome." When the middle-aged man who had been dignified in front of Mayor Puyol saw Su-Yi, He immediately revealed a smile that was like a flower. He came forward with large steps and took the initiative to reach out his hand to Sui. Sui shook his hand with a smile. Chief Alvin, to have you personally come to welcome me, I really am sorry. This middle-aged man was the Sac Kingdom's Royal Parliament's Business Department Chief Paula Alvin. This time, the Lampari Kingdom and the Sac Kingdom had opened the free trade zone, so the new flyer leading the Lampari Kingdom caravan to Tuklin Town had a very important meaning. The Sac Kingdom's high level placed importance on this, so naturally they sent their most important person. If it wasn't for the fact that this matter only involved business on the surface, the one representing the Sac Kingdom wouldn't just be the business department chief Paula Alvin. Hearing Su Yi's words, Chief Alvin laughed. Chairman Su is too polite. When they learned that you were personally coming, there were countless people in the kingdom who wanted to meet you. I'm only able to stand here because of my status. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't even know where I'd end up in the line. Su Yi revealed a faint smile, thinking that this Chief Alvin was quite humorous. But this person was the business department chief, so he often came in contact with merchants. Naturally, he had learned how to talk to people and talk to ghosts. He could be considered a real honored guest of the Sac Kingdom this time, so it was normal for him to praise him a bit. I'm not a beauty, there's no interest in meeting me. But speaking of meeting me, you should build the road first. That way it'll be more convenient, right? Alvin looked at the Lampari Kingdom caravan that had stopped behind Su Yi, and seeing the dust filling the sky, he revealed an awkward smile. Chapter 804. With the appearance of the new flyer, the magic machine craze in the countries to the southwest of Signs had a large influence on the surrounding countries. But if one was to talk about the influence of magic machines, the biggest change that the appearance of the new flyer brought to these countries was the improvement of transportation. Roads. When this new road first appeared in Banta City, it didn't attract that much attention. But when the roads were built in the Lampari Kingdom and gradually connected all the cities in the Lampari Kingdom, people immediately discovered the great convenience brought by the road. With the magic cars developed by the new flyer, there was a new road network in the Lampari Kingdom. Compared to the horse carriages that had to travel on dirt roads before, the magic cars that had to travel on flat roads were much faster and more comfortable. It made people forget about the old horse carriages. So after seeing the convenience brought by the roads, the countries around the Lampari Kingdom all followed suit and invited the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to build roads in their countries. To this day, there were over 20,000 kilometers of roads in the Lampari Kingdom. Not only were there roads in every city, there were even roads in every small town. In second place, it wasn't the Kingdom of Ruhr that was bigger than the Lampari Kingdom, but rather the Principality of Constantine. The Kingdom of Ruhr's roads had barely surpassed 10,000 kilometers at the beginning of this year, but the Principality of Constantine's roads had already surpassed 15,000 kilometers in the middle of last year. If one looked at it from above, the roads in the Principality of Constantine were like a spider's web, densely covering all the roads that could be replaced. There were even roads that were built in places that didn't have roads before, ensuring that one could go from one place to another in the Principality of Constantine. All of this was of course because the new flyer's main base was in the Principality of Constantine. Other than this, in the surrounding countries like the Drake Duchy, the Mirando Duchy, the Norton Duchy, and the other countries, they had already built several roads, at least replacing the main roads in their countries with roads. Even the Falk Kingdom that had been in contact with the Frestec Chamber of Commerce the year before last had already built 3 roads across the country. There were currently 11 roads that were estimated to be over 2,000 kilometers of road that were being built. According to the report that the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had made through the Lampuri Weekly, it was estimated that they would finish building the roads in the surrounding countries in 5 years, connecting these countries with roads. Once this plan was complete, even if one set off from the Principality of Constantine in the southwest to the Fok Kingdom in the northeast, the distance of close to 2,500 kilometers, they would still be able to drive on the road. If they used the new flyer's fastest magic sedan, it would only take a day and a half to get there. But a few years ago, this distance was something that almost everyone couldn't reach. It could be said that with the appearance of roads, it had greatly shortened the distance between countries. It made the countries in the southwest corner of the signs much closer than before. However, all of this was unrelated to the Sac Kingdom. The reason was very simple. The Sac Kingdom and the Lampari Kingdom had always been enemies, and the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce was a company that belonged to the Lampari Kingdom. Adding in the relationship between the new flyer and the Sac Kingdom, it was impossible for the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to build roads in the Sac Kingdom. So when the surrounding countries were investing in paving roads, working hard to create a new road network, the Sac Kingdom could only watch. No matter how much they wanted it, they couldn't do anything. But with the establishment of the free trade zone between the Lampari Kingdom and the Sac Kingdom, the relationship between the two countries had loosened and the Sac Kingdom had seen a trace of hope. But the Sac Kingdom had hinted to the Lampari Kingdom several times, even sending people to contact the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce in secret, but they had always been rejected. This made the Sac Kingdom completely give up. This time the Lampari Kingdom had suddenly declared war on the Sac Kingdom, which made the people in the Sac Kingdom who cared about the roads give up all hope. The relationship between the two sides was already this bad. How could the Lampari Kingdom allow the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to build roads for the Sac Kingdom? However, no one would have thought that the Lampari Kingdom's attitude would change 180 degrees. After taking the initiative to propose a ceasefire to the Sac Kingdom, the Lampari Kingdom not only took the initiative to rebuild the free trade zone, they even loosened up in many other aspects. Building roads was one of them. This time the new flyer wasn't a company that belonged to the Lampari Kingdom in name, but they were leading the Lampari Kingdom's caravan here. In the caravan behind them, there was a representative from the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. After mentioning building roads to Chief Alvin, Sue waved his hand behind him, and Chairman Cruz, who had been watching the entire time, came over with a smile. Chief Alvin, this is Chairman Cruz of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. Cruz, this is Chief Alvin of the Sac Kingdom's Department of Commerce. Sue introduced the two of them. Chairman Cruz reached out his hand with a smile, and when he was halfway there, Chief Alvin took it and said in an excited voice, "Chairman Cruz, it really is a happy thing to see you. Our Sac Kingdom has been waiting for the arrival of you and the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce." Chairman Cruz laughed. "Chief Alvin, you're too polite. Actually, how could we not have wanted to come a long time ago? In our company's road network plan, the Sac Kingdom has always been missing, which has always made me feel uneasy." Chief Alvin gave a dry laugh and held Chairman Cruz's hand even tighter. "Since it's like this, how about we fill this gap together this time?" "Of course. I came this time to fill it," Chairman Cruz said in a heroic voice. Sue revealed a smile and turned to look at the people behind Chief Alvin before asking in a loud voice, "May I ask which one of you is Mayor Puyol?" Mayor Puyol, who had been smiling on the side, came out with a flattered look. "Chairman Sue, what orders do you have?" Sue revealed a faint smile and waved his hand. "It's not an order. But Mayor Puyol, since the people from the caravan are here, let's not waste any more time and begin." Mayor Puyol looked at Chief Alvin with a questioning gaze. Chief Alvin's face turned serious. "What are you looking at me for? Just do what you need to do. Listen to Chairman Sue's orders." After saying this, he turned to Sue and revealed a friendly smile. "Chairman Sue, please." Sue shook his head. "Chief Alvin, you're mistaken. I'm not the main character this time, the main characters are them." Seeing Sue point at the Lampari Kingdom caravan behind him, Chief Alvin was stunned. He patted his forehead and revealed a look of enlightenment. Right, look at my memory. Then, Chairman Cruz, let's go invite the representatives of the companies that came with you. Chairman Cruz looked at Sue and seeing him give a nod, he walked with Chief Alvin to the caravan in the back with a smile. According to the plan that the Lampari Kingdom and the Sac Kingdom had agreed on, the Lampari Kingdom sending this large caravan to the Sac Kingdom meant that the free trade zone between the two countries would reopen. Although Sue was the most important company representative in this caravan, the new flyer wasn't a company that belonged to the Lampari Kingdom, so they couldn't represent the Lampari Kingdom in the upcoming free trade zone reopening ceremony. His main purpose in coming to the Sac Kingdom this time was to show his attitude. It meant that the new flyer would officially cooperate with the Sac Kingdom, indirectly showing the Lampari Kingdom's sincerity in cooperating with the Sac Kingdom. So in the following ceremony, even if Sue was just a bystander, whether it was Chief Alvin or Mayor Pugh, as long as they had free time, they would pay attention to him. In the end, the new flyer was the main character of this cooperation. Only the main character that the Sac Kingdom attached the most importance to wasn't shown here. After the grand ceremony was over, the Lampari Kingdom's caravan moved their goods into the shops that Tucklin Town had already prepared in the free trade zone. Many of these caravans were companies that already had a foothold in Tucklin Town, and there were many that hadn't come before. Because the free trade zone between the two countries had reopened and they had expanded the scope of the free trade, they had also come. For these new companies, the Sac Kingdom and Tucklin Town had built a large number of shops together, expanding the free trade zone by 2 times. The Frestec Chamber of Commerce also obtained a rather large store, which would be the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's first store in the Sac Kingdom. Of course, this store would only sell the household magic machines of the new flyer. As for the military magic machines that the Sac Kingdom cared about the most, how could they sell them in public? After the ceremony, Sue didn't go to the banquet prepared by Mayor Pugh with everyone. Rather, he secretly followed a middle-aged man who came with Mayor Alvin to Mayor Pugh's private manor outside the town. When he walked into the manor's main hall, Sue felt a killing intent that almost materialized hit him. Chapter 805. Sue's eyes swept over the hall and he saw several faces filled with the aura of soldiers. Of course, there was also a chubby guy who looked quite amiable at first glance. However, mixed in with these guys who only lacked the words, "I am a soldier," carved on their faces, even he was tainted with a bit of murderous intent. Feeling the killing intent from these people, Sue revealed a smile. He walked over to the middle-aged man who looked like a merchant with a friendly smile. "Major General Tofk, I'm very happy to see you again." The middle-aged man who looked like a merchant called Major General Tofk restrained the killing intent in his eyes and reached his hand out to Sue with a smile. "Chairman Sue, being able to see you here, I'm also very happy." Sue nodded before looking at the people on the side and asking, "These should be the generals of your Sac Kingdom's army, right?" Hearing Sue's question, one of the middle-aged men who looked to be in his early 40s, and was the youngest among them gave a cold snort. "I thought that Sue was some kind of great person, but it turns out that he's just an ordinary young brat." Sue looked at him and ignored his provocation. He turned to Major General Tofk and said with a smile, "It seems like your country's army isn't sincere in cooperating, so I came here for nothing. Goodbye." Seeing that Sue was about to leave, Major General Tofk was shocked. He quickly grabbed Sue and turned to look at the middle-aged man who had just spoken before saying to Sue with a smile, "Chairman Sue, you mustn't misunderstand. Our cooperation is very sincere, there isn't a trace of falsehood. Otherwise, we wouldn't have sent all these people to meet you, don't you think so?" Sue looked down at Major General Tofk's hand on his arm before looking up at the middle-aged man and calmly saying, "If you're sincere in cooperating, then please don't waste time talking nonsense." Of course. Although he knew that Su-yi was just pretending, hearing Su-yi's gentle tone, Major General Tofk couldn't help wiping the cold sweat off his forehead. Being able to meet Su-yi this time, it could be said that the Sack Kingdom had paid a large price. If Su-yi left because of a single sentence, Major General Tofk didn't dare imagine what would happen next. In fact, he didn't agree with the military sending these fellows to participate in this negotiation from the very beginning. However, the military used the excuse that they were all generals who had participated in real battles on the front lines and knew the true needs of the soldiers for military magic machines and forced them to come over. As expected, once they saw Su-yi, these high-ranking generals who had suffered a loss at the hands of the large amount of military magic machines the new flyer had given to the Lampari Kingdom's northern army, it was like they had met a life-and-death enemy. They didn't hide their hostility towards Su-yi at all. If this was a normal negotiation, they could be considered giving Su-yi a show of strength and laying a good foundation for the following negotiations. But the two sides were not equal since the beginning because this was the Sack Kingdom's demand for the new flyer. The new flyer didn't care about this negotiation at all, so what qualification did the Sack Kingdom have to show the other side? Of course, Major General Tofk never thought that Su-yi's temper would be this big. He actually showed such a strong attitude, acting like he didn't care if they talked or not. It was a pity that Su-yi didn't have to talk, but the Sack Kingdom had to talk. Moreover, they had to make Su-yi satisfied. Thinking of this, Major General Tofk could only give a bitter laugh in his heart. He thought that the army headquarters really didn't give him a good job this time. After finally pulling Su-yi back to his seat, Major General Tofk thought for a bit before deciding to follow Su-yi's words. He didn't waste any time and directly took out the agreement that the army headquarters had prepared, handing it to Su-yi. "Chairman Su, this is the list of military magic machines that we want to buy from your company. Please take a look." Major General Tofk gave a part of the agreement to Su-yi, carefully observing Su-yi's expression. Su-yi took the list and carefully looked it over, but his expression didn't change at all. But after looking over the list, Su-yi thought for a bit before shaking his head. "Major General Tofk, this is a bit different from what we discussed before. We aren't planning on selling the long-range magic cannons right now, so we can't give them to you." Major General Tofk said with a laugh, "This can be discussed. Last time we only discussed it through an intermediary, so it was a bit inconvenient. This time we can finally sit down and discuss it face to face, so of course we can talk. Don't you think so, Chairman Su?" "No, since we've already decided on the list last time, we can't easily change it. Major General Tofk, if your side does this, it will make me feel that you don't want to keep your promise," Su-yi said in a cold voice. Major General Tofk's expression froze as he felt a bit unhappy. As a Major General of the Sack Kingdom's army headquarters, although he was normally in charge of logistics, dealing with merchants and seeing all kinds of people, this was his first time seeing a fellow like Su-yi. "Chairman Su, is there no room for discussion at all?" Major General Tofk asked with a frown. Su-yi put down the list and looked at Major General Tofk with a look of surprise. "If I remember correctly, before I came here, we had already agreed on this. I came here this time to represent New Flyer in signing an agreement with you. There isn't anything else involved, right?" Major General Tofk was speechless. Both sides had indeed agreed on this before because they had already discussed this many times in private, so they had already decided on the content of the agreement. But even if they had decided before, could it be that they couldn't change it now? He didn't believe that Su-yi as the New Flyer's chairman wouldn't understand this. Perhaps he could see through Major General Tofk's thoughts. Su-yi continued, "I understand your side's thoughts, but at least for now, we don't have any plans to deepen our cooperation. Major General Tofk, do you understand what I mean?" Hearing Su-yi's words, Major General Tofk wasn't disappointed, rather his eyes lit up. "At least not for now?" didn't that mean there would be in the future? Ha ha, since Chairman Su insists, then I won't waste words. Major General Tofk took the list from Su Yi's hands and crossed out the long-range magic cannons. This was something the Army headquarters had marked out as a test, so even if Su Yi didn't agree, it didn't have that much of an effect. This cooperation between both sides, whether it was the New Flyer or the Sack Kingdom, it was a mutual test. It could even be said that the Frestek Chamber of Commerce being willing to cooperate with the Sack Kingdom, having the possibility of selling military magic machines to them, was already enough to make the Sack Kingdom's army headquarters happy. It had to be known, they had to go through very difficult smuggling channels before to secretly obtain a small amount of military magic machines from the lords of the Lampari Kingdom and the Principality of Constantine. Now that New Flyer was willing to sell military magic machines to the Sack Kingdom, the benefits were far greater than this. Su Yi looked over the list and finally asked Major General Tofk for the contract the Sack Kingdom's army headquarters drafted. After raising a few small problems, he quickly signed his name on it. On the surface, the process of signing this agreement seemed very sloppy, but in fact, this agreement involved a huge transaction. According to the contract, New Flyer would provide the Sack Kingdom with over 5 million gold coins worth of military magic machines. Although there were only some low-end military magic machines, New Flyer's first transaction with the Sack Kingdom was already over 5 million gold coins, so it wasn't a small deal. After signing the contract, Su Yi didn't stay at all and directly said goodbye to Major General Tofk. Major General Tofk only pretended to keep him before letting Su Yi leave. When Su Yi left Mayor Pu's manor, the heavy atmosphere in the hall instantly disappeared. The middle-aged general who had provoked Su Yi before spat in the direction Su Yi left in and angrily said, "Pay! A villain intoxicated by success. Isn't it just a few new things? He actually dares to be this arrogant." The other generals looked at each other and revealed bitter smiles at the same time. Although it was very simple, Su Yi had just made a few new things, but the Sack Kingdom was in such a sorry state because of these new things, even almost facing the crisis of the kingdom. Speaking of arrogance, Su Yi did have the qualifications to be arrogant. There was no other way. The military magic machines had an incomparable effect on battle. This was something that had been proven in the countless battles between the Sack Kingdom and the Lampari Kingdom. Now the Sack Kingdom's army agreed that if the Sack Kingdom's army couldn't equip themselves with military magic machines, they wouldn't have any chance of winning against the Lampari Kingdom. This problem wasn't something that could be solved by the soldiers going all out. So when the army headquarters received the information that Su Yi was willing to sell the military magic machines to the Sack Kingdom, the entire army headquarters was filled with excitement. They quickly began private negotiations with the New Flyer. If it wasn't for the Lampari Kingdom's sudden declaration of war messing up their plans, they would have already signed this agreement with the New Flyer. In front of being able to equip their soldiers with the military magic machines they dreamed of, what did Su Yi's arrogance count for? But I feel that something is wrong. A middle-aged man whose hair was half-white looked in the direction Su Yi left in and said in a doubtful voice, "Could it be that the New Flyer is really willing to sell us something that has a decisive effect like the military magic machines? Could it be that Su Yi doesn't know that this will increase the strength of our Sack Kingdom's army and be disadvantageous to the Lampari Kingdom?" "Yeah, I've always felt that this might be a trap," another middle-aged general agreed. Another middle-aged man chimed in, "Perhaps the New Flyer doesn't have good intentions in selling us these military magic machines. They might even sell us some broken goods." "Right, I also feel the same." "That's right, the New Flyer shouldn't do this no matter what." Hearing the discussions of his colleagues, Major General Tofk looked at the contract with Su Yi's name on it and carefully put it away. Then he looked at his colleagues and said with a bitter smile, "I say, everyone, could it be that you still don't understand? Even if the New Flyer sells us a pile of trash, we can only accept it. Or rather, even if we know that this is a trap, we can only jump in. You have to know, as long as we can obtain anything related to the military magic machines, the army headquarters is willing to pay any price. Because we have no other choice. The hall instantly fell silent. Everyone stopped talking and looked at each other, finding that the other side had helpless looks. Chapter 806. Not every person of the Sack Kingdom was like the officers of the army headquarters, being forced to work with the new flyer like they had eaten a bitter fruit. At least most people of the Sack Kingdom welcomed the arrival of the new flyer. After the new flyer set up a service center in Tucklin Town, the people of the Sack Kingdom could buy the most authentic Shinfei brand household magic machines through this service center. They could also obtain the legendary new flyer's new and perfect after-sales service that was like a spring breeze. This was a service that was hard to obtain from other companies before. For the people of Tucklin Town, the arrival of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce was a joyous matter worth celebrating. When Mayor Pugh welcomed the Lampari Kingdom's caravan on behalf of Tucklin Town, even if the new flyer wasn't the main character, whether it was Mayor Pugh or Chief Alvin, they had introduced the new flyer as the most important thing. It was very simple. The new flyer not only wanted to set up a service center in Tucklin Town, they would also choose a place outside Tucklin Town to build a household magic machine production base. According to the plan, this production base would take up at least 50,000 square meters. There would be a magic fan factory, a magic air conditioner factory, a magic refrigerator factory, and a magic lamp factory. Like this, the Shinfei brand household magic machines would be produced in the Sack Kingdom, which would reduce the Sack Kingdom's tariff. It would reduce the price in the Sack Kingdom and benefit many people. But what the people of Tucklin Town cared about wasn't this, rather it was the job opportunities that would come with this production base. According to the plan revealed by the new flyer's chairman Su Yi at the welcoming ceremony, after the initial 4 factories were built, they would recruit at least 5,000 local workers. 5,000! Adding up all the people in and out of Tucklin Town, there were only 3,000 people. The initial 4 factories of the new flyer production base could take in all the people of Tucklin Town, and it was far from being enough. This didn't just mean that the people of Tucklin Town wouldn't have to worry about jobs, it would even benefit the people of the surrounding area. This was the job of the new flyer. It had to be known, in the surrounding countries, working for the Frestec Chamber of Commerce was a dream for almost everyone. Although the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's wages weren't the highest, the various benefits that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's workers enjoyed were things that the other companies couldn't compare to. As for the companies in the Sack Kingdom, they weren't even worthy of carrying shoes for the Shinfei merchants. As soon as the news spread, Tucklin Town and the surrounding areas were in an uproar. Countless people flooded into Tucklin Town and expressed their desire to work in New Flyer through the New Flyer Products Service Center. But the response they received was that they would only announce the recruitment after the first Magic Fan assembly factory was built, so they hoped that everyone wouldn't be in a rush. Of course, people shouldn't be too disappointed. This was because even though the New Flyer still needed some time to start recruiting, the other companies that came with the new flyer had already started recruiting. The fastest was the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. The caravans sent by the Lampari Kingdom this time included all the major companies of the Lampari Kingdom. The new flyer had a cooperation with the Lampari Kingdom, so they weren't an exception. Among these companies, the one that the Sack Kingdom attached the most importance to was the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. According to the agreement, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce would help the Sack Kingdom build a main road network. The first road would start from Palermo town in the northern province of the Lampari Kingdom that was closest to the border between the two countries. It would pass through the Muerto Mountains and Tucklin town before finally connecting to the Sack Kingdom's capital, Nordham City. Once this road was built, It would mean that the Lampari Kingdom and the Sac Kingdom would have a direct connection for the first time. Whether it was its political significance or its practical use, it was very important. So the Sac Kingdom attached great importance to this road. Not only did Chief Alvin accompany Chairman Cruz the entire time, the Sac Kingdom's parliament had also sent various people to help, ensuring that this road could be built smoothly. Of course, building this road required large amounts of workers. Even if the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had brought large amounts of skilled workers, they still recruited large amounts of manual labor from the Sac Kingdom according to the agreement. Just to build the first 210-kilometer road from the border to Tucklin Town, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had recruited 1,700 workers from the Sac Kingdom at once. Even the experienced and knowledgeable Chief Alvin was taken aback by the scale of the project. Moreover, because the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce was close to the New Flyer, they also tried their best to give benefits to the New Flyer. Even for the 1,700 workers that they recruited, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce actually gave them work injury insurance, compensation for serious illnesses, heat subsidies, and other benefits that most people in the Sac Kingdom had never heard of before. So when the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's recruitment notice was released, there were countless people who came to apply. Following this, the other companies of the Lampari Kingdom that came with the New Flyer and the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce announced that they would be investing in various factories in Tucklin Town, creating a wave in the Sac Kingdom in a short period of time. Go to Tucklin Town. This was the consensus of almost everyone in the Sac Kingdom. The normal citizens wanted to go to Tucklin Town to find good jobs. The merchants wanted to go to Tucklin Town to find more business opportunities, and the nobles wanted to go to Tucklin Town to learn and see if they could pull these companies to their territory. As for the high-level members of the Sac Kingdom, they were all focused on Tucklin Town. This cooperation in Tucklin Town was just an attempt for the Lampari Kingdom, but for the Sac Kingdom, it was a rare opportunity. The Lampari Kingdom had changed because of the new magic machine industry led by the New Flyer, increasing their national strength in just a few short years. If the Sac Kingdom could grasp this chance, they might be able to suppress the Lampari Kingdom again. So when the Lampari Kingdom's caravan came to Tucklin Town, this town that didn't have any fame in the Sac Kingdom had become the center of attention of the entire Sac Kingdom. Countless people came from all over the Sac Kingdom, and in less than half a month, this small town had become an incomparably prosperous place. Hey, Seveni, don't you feel that this situation is like Banta City in the past? Sue-E put down the Lampuri Weekly in his hand and asked Seveni, who was sipping warm water, this question. The peace negotiations between the Lampari Kingdom and the Sac Kingdom, as well as the actions of both sides, the Lampuri Weekly, had followed the entire process. As for the various changes in Tucklin Town, the Lampuri Weekly had described them in detail and even made a bold prediction. They said that Tucklin Town would become the industrial and economic center of the Sac Kingdom in the future, even having a position that wouldn't be inferior to the royal capital, Lordaeron City. This prediction seemed a bit exaggerated now, but based on the development of Tucklin Town, it wasn't impossible, because this situation was indeed very similar to Banta City in the past. However, when Seveni heard Sue-Yi's question, she put down her teacup and shook her head. It only looks like it on the surface, but it's actually very far from it. Banta City had your New Flyer in the past, so it became the first real magic machine industry city on the continent. As for this Tucklin Town, I don't believe that you'll give them the core technology. Sue-E laughed, of course. Then he changed the topic. But speaking of core technology, Seveni, what do you think of my proposal? Seveni slightly knit her brows. After thinking for a bit, she said with a nod, adding classes related to the magic machine industry in the various schools isn't bad, but this is teaching theoretical knowledge. It's not as attractive as directly teaching technical knowledge. In the end, if you learn the technology, you can enter the magic machine companies as a high-level worker and earn quite a bit. But if you learn theoretical knowledge, how can you see the results? That depends on how determined you are, Sui said with a faint smile. Right now, other than our new flyer, the other magic machine companies don't invest enough in magic machine industry research. They don't attach importance to it at all, so naturally other people don't attach importance to it. Our company attaches importance to talents in this field and gives them high wages, but just our company alone isn't enough to change everyone's thoughts. If your Lampari kingdom can invest in this, it will be completely different. Of course, I understand the importance of theoretical research. The problem is, how do you want me to attach importance to it? If we just add classes in the schools and there aren't any benefits to attract people, I don't think there's any meaning. This is very simple. As long as you're willing, we can start with the first step of training people. For example, our Frestek Chamber of Commerce has set up a special bursary fund in the schools of the Lampuri Kingdom, specially providing funds for students studying the magic machine industry and giving them a chance to work for our company after they graduate. What do you think? Seveni gave a soft snort. You're clearly using the resources of our kingdom schools to train people for your company. You think I can't see through this? Sui laughed. This is mutual benefit. If these people are trained, it doesn't mean they'll stay in our company to work. As long as the Lampari Kingdom's companies can attract them, it wouldn't be strange for them to come back to the Lampari Kingdom, right? Seveni was silent for a bit before giving a sigh and shaking her head. Forget it, I know that you can use all kinds of reasons to convince me, so why would I argue with you? Alright, it's decided like this. I will propose this to the kingdom's parliament, and if it passes, I will urge the schools to implement this policy as soon as possible. But Sui, I need your new flyer to cooperate. This is something I proposed, how could I not cooperate? Sui replied with a smile. Chapter 807. After having lunch with Seveni in the royal palace, Sui sat in his magic sedan and left the royal palace, heading out of Anvilmar city. But he didn't go far, rather he came to the foot of a barren mountain in the southwest of Anvilmar city. Looking up from the foot of the mountain, one could see that there was a steel tower at the top of the mountain that was already half erected. Looking up, it was quite a spectacular sight. This steel tower was of course the magic signal tower that New Flyer had been promoting recently. Since Seveni asked New Flyer to build a magic communication line from the Principality of Constantine to Anvilmar City, New Flyer had been sending people to work on this matter. Of course, the Principality of Constantine's new flight commerce main base was over 1,000 kilometers away from Anvilmar City, so it would take several years to build a line like this. In this situation, Seveni asked the Frestek Chamber of Commerce to help Anvilmar City set up a magic communication network that covered the entire city. According to Akali's research on the magic resonance technology, she had already successfully differentiated the resonance frequencies of the magic array. She could use different magic communicators to talk to different people through the same magic signal tower. Although it couldn't compare to the cell phones on Earth, it could allow a small number of magic communicators to talk to each other freely. That's right, the magic communication network that covered Anvilmar City cost 760,000 gold coins, but it only served less than 50 people including Seveni. Of course, compared to connecting the new flight commerce main base to Anvilmar City with a distance of over 1,000 kilometers, the estimated cost was a shocking 13 million gold coins, but it only served Sui and Seveni. Compared to this, it wasn't enough at all. Hey! How is that possible? Sui gave a laugh and shook his head. The criticism of the magic communication network between the Principality of Constantine and Anvilmar City was common in the newspapers of the Lampari Kingdom. Although most of the newspapers didn't dare make it too clear, The meaning was that they were accusing Her Majesty 70 of wasting people's money for her own selfish desires. This small magic communication network only served 2 people, it really couldn't be justified. 70 never gave an explanation for this, but New Flyer had given an explanation for this magic communication network through the Lampuri Weekly and the other newspapers. According to the data released by the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, even if the people that the magic communication network could serve were prioritized, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce kept making breakthroughs in their research. In just a few years, they would be able to make everyone freely use the magic communication network. At that time, anyone could use this magic communication network to talk to another person on the same network. The newspapers described this scene like a poem, and there were many people in the Lampari Kingdom who were fascinated by this, but there were also many people who doubted this. It was a good thing that since 70 took the throne, she had led the Lampari Kingdom to develop better each year, so her prestige in the kingdom was very high. So even if there were people doubting this, it didn't affect the overall situation. The Frestec Chamber of Commerce had always had a good image in the eyes of the Lampuri Kingdom's citizens. Adding in the fact that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had always done things that were novel to countless people, they couldn't understand at first. So now that they had made this magic signal tower and this magic communication network, it wasn't much at all. Countless people were looking forward to it. When New Flyer could make a breakthrough in the magic communication network technology, realizing the scene described in the Lampari Weekly, that would make people happy. Speaking of this, last time Samo Count said that he wanted to make a magic communication network in Soul City, but Soul City doesn't use this thing that much. Sui muttered with a frown. He looked up at the magic signal tower on the mountain and his magic surged as he flew up from the foot of the mountain. As soon as he landed on the mountain, Akali's eyes swept over him. "Hey, Sir Chairman, are you done talking to Her Majesty?" "Not only are we done talking, we're also done eating." Sui turned to look at the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's technical staff and the Amrit Chamber of Commerce's workers who were still working and asked, "Looking at your appearances, you haven't eaten yet, right?" Akali looked up at the sky and said in a surprised voice, "So it's already this time. I thought it was still morning." She rubbed her stomach after saying this and revealed a bitter look. "Sir Chairman, it's all your fault. I wasn't hungry at first, but now that you've mentioned it, I can't take the hunger anymore." Sui couldn't help smiling as he shook his head. He turned to look at the others and clapped his hands before saying in a loud voice, "All right, everyone stop what you're doing and prepare to eat lunch." The Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce workers naturally didn't have any objections, but the New Flyer technicians all looked at Akali. Akali rubbed her stomach and waved her hand. "All right, since Sir Chairman has spoken, then everyone should prepare to eat." The Frestec Chamber of Commerce's benefits were very good. So before they built this magic signal tower, they had already done all the logistical work. Although this place was a bit far from Anvilmar City, they had already prepared a place to live and a place to cook. With the various household magic machines that New Flyer made, life was quite convenient. But Sui saw that Akali wanted to eat with her subordinates, so he pulled her back. "You don't need to go, come with me. I'll treat you to this meal." Akali was surprised. "Didn't you just say that you already ate?" "The problem is that I still need to eat." Sui gave a shrug. He pulled Akali and turned to fly down the mountain. Akali was a bit confused, but after thinking about it, she obediently followed behind. The two entered Sui's magic sedan that was parked at the foot of the mountain. When they started it, Sui asked Akali, "Akali, if nothing unexpected happens, our company will be cooperating with the Lampari Kingdom to create a magic machine research center near Anvilmar City. Are you interested in being the director of this center?" Akali blinked. "Sir Chairman, what did you say?" "All right, I know you've heard me clearly. Speak, are you interested?" Akali was in a daze for a bit before a bit of hesitation appeared on her face. Sir Chairman, you're suddenly telling me this. I'm not prepared yet. So I'm telling you now to let you prepare yourself. Sui said with a smile. Actually, there's no need to prepare yourself. With your current position in our company, you are the most suitable person to be the director of this research center. Moreover, you can also be in charge of setting up the magic communication network. It's the best of both worlds, isn't it good? But wouldn't I have to run to the Lampari Kingdom to work? Don't forget, you're still a citizen of the Lampari Kingdom. Sui said. Oh, I really forgot. Just like Akali, when the new flyer left the Lampari Kingdom, they had taken many citizens of the Lampari Kingdom with them. These people had been working in the Principality of Constantine and the new flyer, living in the Principality of Constantine for many years. Most of them had already forgotten that they were citizens of the Lampari Kingdom. When King Eric was on the throne, he had judged these people as traitors of the Lampari Kingdom and stripped them of their citizenship. But after Seveni took the throne, she immediately declared this judgment invalid and welcomed them back to the Lampari Kingdom on behalf of the Lampari Kingdom. But these people were already used to working and living in the new flyer, so there weren't many people who chose to go back. Akali had long forgotten that she was a citizen of the Lampari Kingdom, but now that Sui reminded her, she remembered. But this is no use. Akali complained. I've lived in the Principality of Constantine for all these years. I've even brought my father, mother, and little brother's family over. Now you want me to go back to the Lampari Kingdom. That means that you're planning on being Evita's subordinate forever, Sui suddenly said. Akali was surprised again. After pausing, her eyes suddenly lit up. Sir Chairman, you mean that? The director of this research center is on the same level as Evita? Strictly speaking, there is a difference in level, but this research center isn't managed by the research facility. It is directly under the leadership of the company, which is me. So, you understand? Sui said with a faint smile. Really? That's great. Akali gave an excited cheer. She lowered her head to think for a bit before looking up at Sui with a smile. All right, Sir Chairman, let me consider it for 2 days before replying, all right? No problem. Sui replied before turning the steering wheel. The magic sedan suddenly took a large turn and left the main road to Anvilmar City, heading to another road that led to another suburb of Anvilmar City. Sir Chairman, weren't you planning on inviting me to a meal in the city? Akali asked in a confused voice. Inviting you to the city isn't wrong, but before that, we have to pick up some guests first. Sui replied. Guests? Akali was even more confused. What kind of people were so important that Sui had to personally pick them up? Chapter 808. The magic sedan carried Sui and Akali out of the southern suburbs of Anvilmar City. They went around the southern part of Anvilmar City before stopping at a fork in the road that was 5 kilometers away from the east gate. To the east of this fork was the second road from the Lampari Kingdom to the Mirando Duchy, and to the north was the road to the Drake Duchy. Because the road to the Mirando Duchy was newly built, whether it was in terms of width or condition, it was better than the road to the Drake Duchy. But Sui was clearly focused on the road to the north of the Drake Duchy with a look of expectation in his eyes. Akali looked at Sui and couldn't help teasing him. Hey, Sir Chairman, could it be that Princess Caroline is coming? Sui turned back in surprise and saw Akali's secret smile. He immediately understood what she meant and gave a laugh. That's right, Princess Caroline is coming. What? Akali was just joking, but she never thought that it would be true, so she was stunned. Hey, Sir Chairman, are you secretly meeting Princess Caroline behind Steele's back? Meeting your head. Sui snappily reprimanded her. If it really was a private meeting, why would I bring you along? Akali giggled. Perhaps you did it on purpose. You were just afraid that Steele would misunderstand. Sui looked at her. Then tell me, if Steele knew that I was meeting Princess Caroline in private, would she misunderstand? Akali rolled her eyes, and after thinking about it, she gave a dejected sigh. All right, she wouldn't. That fellow never cared about how many women you were in contact with. She was very assured of you, and even hoped that you would find more women. I really don't understand what she's thinking. She's just too considerate of me and always suppresses her own feelings. Sui gave a sigh. After pausing, he said to Akali with a serious look, Akali, you and Steele are good friends. There are some things that you should talk to her about rather than me. Tell her for me that I hope that she can be more selfish in the future and think about her own feelings. She doesn't need to wrong herself for me, all right? Akali looked at Sui in a daze for a while with a strange expression on her face. I say, Sir Chairman, you should be the one to talk to her about this. If I say it, people who don't know the situation would think that I'm trying to drive a wedge between you and your wife. I'm having you say this. What are you worried about? Sui was stunned. Anyway, I won't do it, you can say it yourself. Akali gave a soft snort and turned her head, clearly not wanting to accept Sui's explanation. Sui didn't understand why Akali had this reaction. He knit his brows, and when he wanted to say something, he saw Akali suddenly point at the road to the north. They're here. Sui turned to look and found that on the road to the north, there were several magic sedans mixed in between the large amounts of transport magic cars and the few traditional horse carriages that appeared. The two magic sedans in the front had bright colors, which made people focus their attention on them. The magic sedan in the front was completely red, and when it quickly drove down the road, it was like a ball of fire passing over the earth. The magic sedan following behind was bright yellow, reflecting the rare warm sunlight of early spring. As it quickly passed through the traffic, it was even more eye-catching than the fire-red magic sedan from before. When they first saw these magic sedans, they were at least 2 to 3 kilometers away from the fork, but after a while they were only a step away from the fork. When they were about to reach the fork, the fire-red magic sedan in front suddenly braked and stopped 5 meters away from Sui's magic sedan, looking a bit dangerous. The bright yellow magic sedan behind it was clearly caught off guard. It came to a sudden stop at the fork in the road, but it was already close to 100 meters away. Get out. Sui said this to Akali before opening the door to get out. The driver's door of the fire-red magic sedan on the other side opened and a beauty with a face as beautiful as a flower came out. She was even more attractive than the fire-red magic sedan beside her under the sunlight. It was Princess Caroline who Akali had just mentioned. Hey, dear Sui, have you been waiting here for a long time? Princess Caroline raised her hand to greet Sui with a bright smile, but when she saw Akali coming out from the other side, the smile on her face froze before she revealed a look of understanding. Isn't this the dear young Miss Akali? Hey, young Miss Akali, do you still remember me? Akali didn't have a good look at her. Looking over her, she nodded and gave an sound from her nostrils as a response. Princess Caroline acted like she couldn't see her attitude at all. She came over with a smile and said with an excited look, Young Miss Akali, I remember that you're mainly responsible for researching magic array resonance technology, right? During this time, your new flyer has been promoting magic signal towers and building a magic communication network. So you're the main person in charge, right? I'm very interested in this, can you tell me more about it? Hearing Princess Caroline ask about her profession and in New Flyer's plans, the Drake Duchy would be an important customer for the magic communication network, so Akali couldn't keep this cold look on her face. She nodded and began explaining to Princess Caroline. Sui on the side saw this scene and he couldn't help secretly laughing in his heart. He was very clear that Akali was acting like this to Princess Caroline because she was venting her anger for her good friend Steele. Speaking of this, Princess Caroline was just an innocent bystander who had been implicated by him. However, how good were Princess Caroline's communication skills? For someone like Akali who immersed herself in research all day, how could she be her match? Sue-Yi didn't disturb their conversation and turned to look at the bright yellow magic sedan that had charged over. He saw that car suddenly roar out as it suddenly moved back. However, this move was too fast and the magic sedan was like a wild horse that had broken free. It instantly moved several dozen meters and slammed into a large tree on the side of the road, creating a large hong sound. This large sound scared Princess Caroline and Akali who were talking. The two of them looked over in surprise and saw the door of the bright yellow magic sedan open as a young man rolled out. Princess Caroline slightly knit her brows. After thinking for a bit, she walked over and asked in a voice filled with concern, "Seymour, are you all right?" This young man, whose face was a bit pale from the sudden crash, was the son of his good friend, who came with the Marquis of Southgard last time. "Seymour. I'm fine." Hearing Princess Caroline's voice, Seymour, who was still in shock, suppressed the shock on his face, and revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. However, when he turned to look at the bright yellow magic sedan, his expression immediately collapsed. "Oh my God! I only bought this car less than a week ago. It's actually destroyed like this." When Seymour wasn't looking at her, Princess Caroline quickly rolled her eyes before saying with a smile, "Don't worry, Seymour, Chairman Su is here. It's fine if your car is broken. He can just find someone to fix it for you." "Chairman Su?" Seymour was stunned before finally reacting. He turned to Sue-Yi and revealed an awkward smile. "Ah, Chairman Su, you're here. I'm sorry, I was racing with Princess Caroline and didn't notice that you were here." Sue-Yi knit his brows. He pointed at the countless magic cars, the occasional horse carriage, and the pedestrians on both sides of the road before saying in a deep voice, "Princess Caroline, Your Excellency Seymour, I must seriously warn you that if you want to race, please go to a professional race venue. Whether it is the Lampari Kingdom or our Principality of Constantine, there are venues that can be used for you at any time. But the roads aren't suitable for racing, it's very easy for danger to appear." Princess Caroline was a bit surprised before sticking out her tongue in a naughty manner. She said with a smile, "All right, I understand. Many thanks for Chairman Su's reminder." Seymour curled his lips with a look of disdain, clearly not listening to Sue-Yi's words at all. Sue-Yi looked at him and was too lazy to care about him. He turned to look at the other three magic sedans that were coming from the north. Seymour turned to look at his yellow magic sedan that had its butt smashed and his heart hurt a bit. He wanted to ask Sue-Yi for help, but because he had just been taught a lesson by Sue-Yi, he felt a bit dissatisfied. After thinking about it, he gave a cold snort and didn't speak. After a while, the three magic sedans slowly stopped at the fork in the road. The back door of the magic sedan in the middle opened and the Marquis of Southgard came out with a familiar smile that Sue-Yi was familiar with. "Chairman Su, I'm very happy to see you again." The Marquis of Southgard raised his hand to greet Sue-Yi. "Ha ha, being able to see Sir Marquis again, I'm even more happy." Sue-Yi quickly walked over with a wide smile. After waving his hand to greet the Marquis of Southgard, his eyes fell onto an old man with white hair and a red face who came out of the car on the other side. This old man was wearing a dark blue magician's robe. One could tell with a single glance that it was made of high-quality materials and had fine workmanship. It definitely wasn't a normal product. However, compared to the clothes itself, what was more eye-catching was the water pattern symbol on the chest. If one were to take a closer look at this symbol, they would discover that it was not an inanimate object. Instead, it was reflecting light like a wave under the sunlight. Occasionally, one could even see the waves rolling, as if it was really a wave. A magician that could have this mark on their chest could only be a great magician that had been certified by the Sorcerers' Guild. Moreover, beside the wave mark, there was a less eye-catching mark that showed his other identity. This great magician came from the city in the sky, Signs Magicians Union headquarters. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.